Hey guys, welcome to episode 229 of 4-Player Animecast. We are nearing the end of the summer. My glasses have been fogging up every time I go outside these days, but it's better than getting
Why?
caught in the middle.
Because it's
It's
hot.
yeah, it's super muggy, at least everywhere that
Stop,
I've been
stop
so
looking at
far.
hot women or men, Spire.
True.
I apologize. But yeah, so at least it's better than getting caught in the middle of a typhoon, as I almost did. But other than that, I'm here back in the United States, safe and
Why
sound.
didn't you?
I'm your host. What?
Why didn't you say?
Uh, well, I
Why
did
didn't
go
you
Things are
to
cool,
move
dude.
to Japan, dude? What's
yeah.
going on?
Why didn't I just go fully to Japan? Honestly, the entire trip was just the whole thing and then thing in Japan memes over and over
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Did you see the
But-
important things?
oh, what do you mean by the important things?
Did you see Hollow City?
I did not see Hollow City.
Then why did you
Why
even go?
not, bro? What's
Did
the
you
I
point, man?
I was
did you go
running
to
around to other.
Nijisanji Cafe or whatever? Is there a Nijisanji Cafe? I don't know.
There
What's
probably
Spire?
is like a Niji Sanji.
Why aren't you in Korea?
Why am I not in Korea right now?
Yeah,
Yago
Because
what's
is in
that all
Korea right
about?
now. Why aren't you in there?
I did not plan my trip around that event.
Look
So
here. He's in Korea, Spire. Why didn't you try? He's right there. You could have said hello. See?
yeah, just hop on over. But yeah, I am back from my trip in Japan, and I am again
Tell
here
us
with
about
you
it.
guys. Maybe in the shoutouts and callouts a little bit, but again, I am Spire, and with me are my compatriots Near,
Hello.
Toast,
Hello.
and Dark.
Hi.
All right, 2 weeks very briefly, starting in again reverse. Dark, 2 weeks.
Been keeping up with a lot of series. Mostly been doing
Okay, again,
mostly been gaming though.
Jamie.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Been
Especially
doing
since
Baldur's Gate,
AC6.
you know. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, I
Baldur's
mean, I've
Gate
been
and
doing
AC6
yeah.
back to back.
I mean, it's rough because Baldur's Gate, AC6, and then next Friday is fucking Starfield. So it's like a
Oh
lot of
right, I forgot about that too.
a lot of games coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, Baldur's Gate and AC6 have been really tight. So
Hmm. Pretty good. All
other
right.
than that,
What
no,
about?
yeah, other than that, oh yeah, other than that, you know, the usual, the Hoyo verse,
Oh yeah, the
fucking
grind, the 50 billion mobile game grind.
yeah. Been playing all three, you know, just waiting on Zenless Zone Zero, and apparently they're also making a fucking Animal Crossing like style game too. So
Uh-huh.
I guess look forward to that.
Yeah. All right. Pretty good. Thank you, Dark. What about you, Toast? 2 weeks.
I can't tell you about 2 weeks, but I can tell you about today.
Okay, 2 weeks, or rather today. What'd you do then?
You, I was tired and angry until 2 hours ago. Now
Fortunate.
I'm still tired, but I'm less angry.
That's good at least.
'Cause
what made you slightly
for those
happier?
who don't know,
Hmm?
6 a.m. CST my time is when Hololive Splash Party Day 1 was about to start, but it didn't start because they had the new website provider or whatever, ZAN, I don't know,
Mhm.
decided
Oh yeah,
to
one of those like event booking sites and stuff like that. Yeah,
crash their entire servers during
nice.
right when it started, and
Classic Japanese websites.
it didn't happen during the for the what is it, the fourth gen concert. So there may have been like, oh, we can handle this. Probably not, because at the same time there was also the was a pre-parade concert, so they were trying to do two live concerts at once. One of them being significantly bigger than the other. So right in the middle of the pre-parade concert was when the Splash Party started, and it crashed.
Mhm.
So we were stuck there waiting for 2 hours for anything to start, and it didn't. So the concert was postponed until further notice, until 12 hours later, from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They were like, "Hey, cover release statement." We're like, "Hey, we know about the problems, so we're gonna refund day one, and guess what? Day one's gonna be free on YouTube,
Okay, that's good at
and it's
least.
gonna start in 90 minutes. So if I stop talking, you know where I am, because I'm gonna be watching it.
All right.
You can't stop me." But yeah, so I feel slightly better now that everyone else can see it. There was
Okay.
that. What else in 2 weeks? I don't know.
Not much.
Console anniversary's coming up. Console anniversary, 2 years. Cool, cool. 3Ds coming. Their 3Ds are finally gonna happen. Cool. Crony in 3D. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I don't know. That's all I got. I'm tired and angry still. No, wait, no, I'm not. I'm just tired.
All
Whatever.
right. At least the refund and I guess their handling of it worked out, a little bit better than what there have been in previous events where they just didn't give out the refund or anything else at all. So.
Yeah. Gee, I wonder what company you're talking about. G
Alright.
G cover. Why do you have four concerts lined up this year with four? Is it five now? Five. With
Yeah.
Fourth Fest, Connect the World. That's the Ian concert. Splash Party. No, is it six? Fourth Gen concert, and then you have Blue Journey and Toa's concert. Gee, how come you have all these lives, my dudes?
Anyways,
Whatever happened to
unfortunate.
the other company?
We'll never know. The other company is of unknown
I think a
name,
lot of
clearly.
things have
But
happened so far.
yeah. But anyways, thank you very much, Toast. And what about you, Nier? 2 weeks?
I've been pretty busy. I've had a lot of stuff
Oh,
going
okay.
on.
Near how Shadowverse.
Shadowverse is interesting. So the mini expansion just came out. I haven't really been keeping up too much with the meta. Apparently, Sword's kind of gross right now. They've got some weird card that's like basically Heavenly Aegis, but it like sacrifices your own board to get like really big. And I haven't really read into like how exactly it works, but I've seen 20 attack Heavenly Aegis style cards, which is like cool. That's cool and normal. But yeah, Shadowverse is interesting.
That's kind of like that new Zeus card, right? Or not new, I guess, but it's like the
Yeah, the one
Zeus
that
card
used
that
to
like
be able to like randomly like buff
get like
its
plus
attack.
20 attack,
Yeah,
storm, and yeah, exactly.
yeah. But yeah, I haven't been keeping up too much with Shadowverse recently. On that, I watched Barbie this week actually.
Yeah. Apparently,
Very
Barbie
very good movie.
surpassed Super Mario Bros. In North America.
Yeah, yeah. Very good movie. I would highly recommend it. It's a lot
Oh,
more like
believe what
emotional
happened.
than I was expecting it to be. I kind of thought it would just be like a pure comedy with sort of a little bit of a bit of social commentary intermixed into it, but it's actually quite an emotional movie. Yeah, I would definitely recommend
I
it.
think also the standards set for it were pretty decent compared to what it under promised over delivered. It was
Yeah,
that sort of movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Nier is a new meme. Is a new meme arisen? I know there's Knuff, but is that the new meme now?
Yeah,
Can it beat out?
I
Can it beat
just
out
can't.
the? Can it beat out the Ryan Gosling Blade Runner meme? Because that's primo, dude.
I mean, I think Ryan Gosling fans will attach themselves to whatever is most recent, right? But the Blade Runner and Drive memes are eternal, I think. Like they'll never go away. But the new Ken one is definitely a nice addition to the repertoire. But yeah, other than that, I played and beat Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Also a very good game. I would definitely recommend. Especially as someone whose favorite game of all time is Jet Set Radio Future. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is basically a spiritual successor to that, and I think it deserves that title. Bit pricey in my opinion. But games are expensive nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And that I recently randomly had the urge to rewatch Inuyasha.
Which season?
Oh,
Which
okay.
season?
I've been going through season 1. I'll
What's
probably
your favorite opening there?
I don't know. I mean, season 1's opening is kind of like nothing, right?
What? Change the World is iconic, Nier. How dare you?
I guess. I always preferred the ED myself.
Fukai no Mori or the other one?
Fukai no Mori, yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm like halfway through season 1 right now. I don't really know why I had the urge, but I've been doing that. Nostalgia tripping, you know. Other than that, I had some family stuff pop up that was a bit concerning. Luckily, it's all right now.
Good to hear.
But yeah, I've been pretty busy the last few weeks, hopping here and there.
Yeah. Good to see
yeah.
that it's mostly busy with not any super harmful stuff.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. I've again, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, been out, and part of the reason why we delayed it for the podcast for a week is that I've been out on my trip to Japan. I returned literally in just like on Thursday, so 1 or 2 days ago, and I'm still fighting a little bit with jet lag. I'm trying to fix my sleep schedule, but it's I'm pretty good right now, so I'll be able to go on properly. But it was very interesting. I'm glad that the typhoon didn't ransack all of my plans. It only delayed like a
Oh,
small like my
Oh,
what?
hold on, Spire. Did you experience the Japanese authentic earthquake?
Oh, no, I did.
You weren't
Thank
there?
God I did not experience an earthquake, but I
Why
did.
not? It would have been a cool story.
It would have been, but I would have preferred not to experience any
So you so
natural
you
disaster.
you weren't in the area, huh? Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, thankfully the typhoon didn't hit anywhere where I was really going, and B didn't interfere with any flights in or out of the country, so I think I made it back safe. Um, I had fun, attended Summer Comic-Con, and I just wilted under the summer muggy heat of Japan, just like dying. I'm really bad with heat. I actually hate sweating and like just being in that heat all the time. So I was struggling a little bit, but made it back. Had got bought a lot of merchandise, bought a lot of fucking. I
Um,
think I spent $540 over the 2 days in Comic Con.
did you get
It
any
was
belts?
what
Did you get any drivers?
drivers?
Yeah.
Do they
So what do you-
sell fucking Kamen Rider drivers at fucking?
Probably not,
At
unless it's
Comic
some
Con?
unless it's
No, I
somebody
don't
making
think.
them.
Why
I
didn't you
know
get
that
the
there
guy?
was
Why
a.
did you? Why
I
did you
know
get the
that there's a
Gachar
lot of
driver?
like. I don't know that there. I know that there was a lot of merch like like Common Rider like Dojin merch stuff like that. But I don't think
Gucci.
there was any
Nice.
official merch or any
Why didn't you get any?
like merch. Why didn't I get any?
Guy hates Kamen
Because
Rider. That's
yeah, I just
game.
hate Common Rider.
Biggest
Sorry.
This guy was not going to watch Gachard. I bet he didn't even tune in to watch the last episodes of Geats live and be like, "Hey, I watch Geats."
I did not. I apologize. But yeah, I went through a lot of stuff. I actually went through.
Did you just go to Comic Con? You didn't do anything cool there. Did you even
Oh,
visit Super Mario Land World?
I did not visit Super Mario Land, but I went to the what is it? The Gundam base or whatever, that one
Oh
place
yeah,
with
name
like
one Gundam.
yeah, name one Gundam.
Name one Gundam.
I actually couldn't name any of the Gundams. But we did take a lot of pictures there,
What's your
and we.
what is your favorite Gundam? Why'd you go there? Did you buy anything?
I just want to see. I just want to see the robots. But it was the funniest thing was that the like like
Oh my god,
they
they're
had
not
like the
robots.
time.
They're mobile suits.
they had the timeline of like the different like Gundam series like lined out like from
Oh yeah,
1990.
name the timeline.
Name the time right now. um, but what was it? The funny thing was that the shop was very big, but at least like half of it, or maybe even more, was just like completely taken over by Witch of Mercury at that point.
I mean,
So
that's
it
fair.
was
It's
like,
Witcher Mercury is pretty good, is it not? It's the hot
It's
key.
also quite popular. So
I remember actually one series that I remember the exhibit of. They had a couple of cool exhibits for Kokoro's Dawn's Island. They had like a bunch of like because they have a bunch of things where like they use like the Gundam like figures and like different like classic like effects and stuff like that, bits and stuff like that to kind of show different scenes. And they had a couple of different exhibits for that series or that I like. So, but anyways, a lot of fun
Aspire,
in there.
you brought up Kukuran Doa's Island, right?
Yeah.
Why is it infamous? Tell me why
Uh,
it's infamous.
I have no idea other than potentially checking the wiki.
Okay.
But yeah, I do. So kind of ran around, mostly busy, trying to recover from again jet lag a little bit.
How many
But
VTubers did you see in Japan?
did ice? What do you mean by that?
Like
Like,
How many
advertisement wise?
VTubers did you
oh,
dox
a
in
lot.
Japan?
Yeah, how many I saw a
From
lot
what
of freaking
company?
what?
From what company?
I mean, obviously Nijisanji and Hololive, mostly Hololive. Just like if you go into any merchandise store these days, that's like even vaguely anime related, even if it's not anime related, honestly, you'll probably see Hololive merchandise at the very
Did you
least. Yeah,
did you pick up more Calliope's new album there?
I did not pick up Marco
Did
Levy's
you
new
pick up
album.
Suisei's
The
new album
closest,
there?
no, I did buy a Bikini Suisse acrylic.
Look at this
I
pervert.
collected the.
Look at
Yeah.
this pervert.
Did you hear any shops bumping any Mori tracks?
They
So
do.
I was playing at an
Get the
arcade
UMJ
and I
store,
was
right?
playing Tunism, and one of the songs that I came across was more Calliope's like the
and you smash the machine, right?
yeah, and I
Yeah,
immediately did the thing that they
you
were
immediately
like
vomited
smashed it.
onto the controls, destroying
Yeah,
the entire
exactly.
machine.
You didn't play.
Yeah.
You didn't play. Wait, hold on. You played more Calliope track, but you didn't play
No,
Selfish Dazzling. How dare
I
you?
didn't play the more Calliope track. All I like 90% of what I played on that Tunism cabinet was just Firebird because it's like cool.
You should have played the. You should have played the exclusive Hoshimachi Suicide track, Selfish Dazzling. That's patched to Chuni though.
That might be in a later edition, but we'll have to see. But actually, it's really funny because um one of the things that I didn't like when I was playing through like my share of rhythm games in the Japanese arcades was that they have all more or less the new like at least the major arcades, right? Have all of the newest versions of the cabinets or of the games, right? So the newest versions of the newest patches all have obviously more recent songs. But most of the recent additions are like all VTuber songs or all just like Himihina, like Marine Essential stuff. Like Shiny Smiley Store is always on there. A bunch of other like VTuber stuff is always on
How
there.
many Niji
So
Sanji tracks?
I forget. I don't keep up with VTuber songs at all.
But you
Yeah,
just
um,
name
named like
every
3 VTuber songs. What are you talking
name
about?
every
How dare you?
VTuber
those are like
track.
super famous. Like the treasure box one with Marine is so like famous, so it's kind of hard to ignore it. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I had to literally scroll through like 3 pages of VTuber songs before I could get to an actual
Good.
song that I could play
Good.
on
Maybe you should
on
watch
the
more
camera.
VTubers then.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that was interesting.
Now tell
Uh,
us about the Japanese food spire
I'll do that later.
compared to
But
your
yeah, too
Korean
much.
food. I've seen the memes.
Too much of a tangent here, but that was my 2 weeks. Anyways, um, yeah, and that was pretty much it for our 2 weeks. So I do want to get started and not make this an entire Aspires Japan trip podcast. First off the list here, Toast. What do you have for us?
Oh,
Yeah.
shit, what's it called? I don't know the Japanese name of this. I only know the English title.
Yeah, Atelier Ryza. Yeah.
I
Atelier
watched.
Ryza, Ever Darkness and the Secret Hideout, also known as Atelier Ryza no Atelier, Toyokami no Jou, Himitsu no Kakurega. And yeah, this is
AKA Atelier Ryza 1.
yeah. So this is done by Leiden Films. Okay, that's a name I haven't seen in a while.
I don't know who Leiden Films are.
They did stuff. They did smaller stuff like Aira. I think they did As Miss Beelzebub Likes It. What is it? They did some other stuff.
Terraform Mars. Oh boy. Secco Boys. Isn't Secco Boys
Cells
the...
at Work, Code Black. Oh right, they did do Creamer recently. I forgot. Yeah, they did. They've done a decent amount of stuff here and there.
Berserk? I
But
don't believe that. Yako no
That's probably
Juliet.
assisting.
yeah, it's
Tokyo
I'm missing
Revengers. Tokyo Revengers. Wasn't that the one with the really good opening?
Yeah, I mean that opening got pretty popular.
But not as popular as Beastars.
But yeah, anyways, so
Shit,
Atelier
yeah.
Ryza.
Leiden Films also is doing Kenshin, by the way. So
Yeah.
wow, they're double dipping. Good for
They're
them.
they probably have
Double
a lot more
dipping?
money for Kenshin. But
Did they though? I don't know.
anyways,
So
going over to Atelier Ryza.
So, as someone who hasn't played any of the Atelier Ryza games,
I don't think any of us here have.
watching this anime made me feel like I'm missing out on something.
So it was made specifically for the fans in this case.
I don't know. I'm not a fan. I mean, so it's basically the story about some islanders. There's a who live on this secluded island. You got Ryza, the main character. Her name's Rosalind Stout, and she's a farmer girl. Then you've got her friends. One of them's like Lent. Is that Lent? Lent is the big swordsman dude with the red hair, and he's, I don't know, swings a sword. Then there's Tao, who's the Shota bookworm nerd, and they just hang out. They're called the Three Brats because they hang out and go on adventures and whatnot. So, and one day they're like, "Hey, this island sucks. We've already explored most of this island. Let's go on an adventure." So, because there's this famous merchant that's coming to the island, so they sneak up on a boat and like go to the mainland. There they meet the merchants. Then they explore the island, having an adventure. Then they run into the merchant's daughter, Claudia, and then they save her from some monsters. And then they come back to the island. And then once Claudia is there, plus two other important characters, that's when the main story starts. The main story of this series is it's basically the perfected version of isekai slice of life that I've always wanted. Because if you've played the games, the Atelier series, it's mostly about crafting, right? Like
Pretty sure.
the main
Yes.
focus of the series is about crafting, and that shows very well in this series because I'm 8 episodes in, and the majority of this series is slice of life, craft, like, collecting alchemy materials and crafting stuff. And you know what? It's great.
So it's just like slow life for the most part.
It's very slow life
Okay.
so far. They're like there's a lot of like they encounter monsters while
Okay.
gathering materials, but that's not the main focus because they suck at it.
Honestly, I feel like
They're
this
really
is a
bad at fighting monsters.
better way to construct a series based off say a game and it has a little bit more of a vague story structure, or not a vague story structure, but it's usually more difficult to put a story in a game, as we've seen from previous precedents, into an anime than it is a lot of other media, right? But I think doing it in this sort of like more episodic soul life way is probably the better way to do it, right? Is my guess.
That's because the in when there's usually like a video game adaptation of something.
Mm-hmm.
What was the last video game adaptation anime? Was it Tales? I don't know. I don't
Isn't
know
it?
any.
Wasn't it that like wasn't it Tales of Mana, Legend of Mana, or whatever? Yeah,
Was it?
I
Well,
think
it
that
was
was the
a
last one.
Tales, right? Maybe sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like
I don't know.
with those, well, I mean, I'm mostly talking about like console stuff, like the PC ones. I don't know. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the point is, most of the stuff, most of the video game adaptations, anime, they usually have this grandiose story of like there's this great evil trying to take over the world. So there's this huge emphasis on important plot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, there's this giant evil trying to take over the world, and we must stop it. This one is completely small scale. There's no so far there's no overarching plot
Oh, okay.
of
There's no
like,
like foreshadowing. There's nothing of that.
well, there's a little, but it's like so far it's pretty minor. The
Mm-hmm.
main thing is there's a bunch of well, I haven't mentioned the two other characters, right? So the two other characters that I didn't mention were Empel and Leela. Empel being is this like famous alchemist that's traveling around exploring
Mm-hmm.
ruins, and Layla is his bodyguard. And the reason they came to the island is that this island is chock full of ruins. So like that's why they're there. So it's pretty so far it's pretty small scale, as in like, oh, we're here to explore some ruins, and there's no big overarching plot about destroying the world just yet. But so
Mm-hmm.
far, mainly, this entire series so far has been mostly about Ryza and her friends is going on outings, going on small adventures, then coming back, pretty
Yeah.
much.
There probably might be like a small thing that. So my guess on this is like at best there might be something in like episodes 10, 11, 12, or 11 and 12 that'll kind of be like there's like a slightly bigger thing going on out there, and then maybe that'll lead into or imply that'll lead into the game's sort of later story as well, but doesn't actually, or but with the anime it just kind of
There's
ends there.
the
But I
only
feel like
the only big like fight was in episode 9.
mhm,
Is it episode 9? Episode 8 or 9? But like it's still pretty small scale still. They later on, way like maybe is it 6 or 7, they encounter this mysterious creature when they were building their Atelier hideout in the forest, and it's like this is the creature that the two that Empel and Leela have been looking for, and like it's probably connected to the ruins. But so far it's pretty small scale. Nothing, no big adventure yet.
mhm,
It's been most like, oh hey, at was it Ryza learning alchemy from Empel because he's an alchemist, and she found her way of life. Like, hey, that's some cool stuff. Let me learn alchemy. She learns alchemy from him, making small things that improve her daily life. Like small side quests that would be part. If it was in the game, I would assume these are side quests. Like, hey, we're gonna make some ointment. And like, hey, we're gonna build our atelier. So not. Oh yeah,
so is each episode based around like a specific thing that they're going to craft, or is it, or like a specific like monster of the day kind of thing,
there.
or what?
It's pretty much so far it's been mostly like, hey, Ryza, I'm gonna tell you to find this ingredient, and you bring your friends. They're gonna help you find the ingredient, and that's it.
Okay.
And then there was this one thing where like, oh, hey, Claudia, I want pudding. Make me some pudding, and that was a whole episode. And that was a good episode. They spent the
Okay.
entire episode talking about the difference between like goat's milk and cow milk, and
Boy.
various sugars. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna synthesize some sugar for it. I was like, sweet, that's cool. But yeah,
Pretty good. Okay, this is a
pretty,
pretty
it's
good.
very cozy, very. I believe it's very true to the game. So
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think the big part of why this specific way formula is successful when it that isn't necessarily so in like say isekai in some isekais is because it fits the idea of the game, right? So if you know, like if you're coming in, you're like, oh yeah, this is the game, then it's just like it obviously fits.
the name of the day in the end is crafting. This series is very focused on its crafting aspect. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how we're gonna gather these various alchemy items, and you know what? They did that really well. Whatnot.
Yeah.
I also have to mention that well, that's enough about like the plot in quotes because there's not much of a plot I've seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but overall, what else? The characters. I may have some qualms about how Lent is drawn because one's a weirdo. Why's he got a half shirt? I get his single pauldron, but like I don't like Lent's design. He looks like a weirdo. Everyone else is fine though. It's just he's weird looking. The
What
red
about
haired guy, he's weird. The character designs in the series are great. You know,
okay.
well, they're all good. I just don't like Lent. Even Shota Boy Tao, if you like that, you might like him. All the female characters, they're great. That was the main what's it called? The eye catch of the series, right? Like, hey, Ryza's got some pretty cool pants, and
Or lack thereof.
she got Lila's got and Lila's got some nice boobs, and like that's cool. Character designs well done, but also their the character interactions between them. There's good character development. They all have. Like each character is important in their own way to the story. Ryza's the alchemist, so her job is to find ingredients and go on. She's the main driver of the adventures they go on because they're there to help her find ingredients. And then
Yeah.
or Lent is he's the muscle, he's the warrior, he helps out. And then Tao, he's the book smarts guy, so he helps lead them in the right direction because he can read. Because like he started off not being able to read the fancy like runes across the ruins, but he went to Empel to learn the runes, so now he can help them investigate their adventures and whatnot. Then you got
Okay.
Empel, he's the alchemist. He teaches Ryza what to do. He's like the quest giver. Like, hey, I need you to do this. Then Lila is his bodyguard, so she teaches Lent how to fight because he's the warrior. So they all
So
got their own.
they have like little interactions within the cast and not just like with regards to the main character, right?
Yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah.
fair.
They all have their
Um,
own. They all have their own goals. And then she's the merchant's daughter. She's Ryza's friend.
mhm.
I think she's so far the least developed of the main four being Ryza, Lin, Tao, and her. But she's definitely coming into her own light because she's learning archery, so she can help out in battles too and
Yeah.
whatnot. But yeah, these characters all mesh together very well with each other. So you can tell there was a lot of thought put into their interactions, and that's good.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's not just like just randomly interacting with the main character here and
It's
there
not
and
a
not
random
with
harem and whatnot.
yeah.
And and lo and behold, I don't think there's any romance involved with the series. I don't think so. They're all friends going on fun adventures in a way, very
Right.
similar to I want to say Princess Connect. It's a bunch of dudes hanging around and having fun. So I got Princess Connect vibes for this, and that's very good.
What's how are the audio visuals like?
The visuals are fine, and the audio pretty good too. I can't tell whether or not this is taken directly from the games because I peeped at some of the game soundtrack. And it's mostly classical piano and whatnot. Very fun, whimsical stuff. It's good. I don't have any complaints and whatnot.
Alright.
I will say though about the visuals, there's a lot of sudden camera angles showing one character's specific body parts, and I'm like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, this is what the
Like a
game was
random,
marketed around.
yeah, it's like a random cut. Here, Ryza's thighs. So there's
Yeah.
like several cuts throughout every episode, and I'm like, damn, that's
They
cool.
know.
Yeah,
There's a reason Ryza has like 18 different figures, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I have no complaints about it at all. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
here's from below, here's from the side, here's from the back. I'm like, damn, nice.
Those camera shots are made for world peace. I think. But anyways, any last words on the series?
Let's see. The opening, the opening's a Golden Ray by Sangatsu no Fantasia, and
Okay.
I want to say it's really good. I really like the whimsical nature of it.
Yeah.
I want to say it's beating out Spellblade's opening for me, because I definitely feel how the lighthearted and fun this opening is in comparison to like it matches well.
Okay.
It definitely feels like it would have been in the main games, so it doesn't beat out. It doesn't fall flat short of that. I don't
That's
know.
pretty good.
All I have is really this series is pretty good. I feel like I
Yeah.
missed out by not playing Atelier, but I don't know. Maybe I'm definitely poking my nose in the direction of the Atelier series now, because
Yeah,
I
I
knew
think
of
I think
them.
it was also better than probably most people expected because people kind of again usually expect a slightly mediocre kind of mess of a proper adaptation translation of the game's plot into the anime when something like this is released. But I'm glad that they kind of just toned it back down to, as you said, a very episodic slow life based around the main crafting um system that the Atelier series kind of focuses on, and kind of just ran with that. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any complaints about much of this series, really. It's good. Check it out. If you're a fan of the game, you definitely would like this series. Like I'm not a fan of the game. I haven't played them yet, but I really like this too.
all right.
So what?
What mouse score would you give it?
I'm gonna give this a strong 9 out of 10. Very good.
All right. Okay.
You guys missed out by not checking this out. Definitely one of the better anime adaptations of a video game in a long time. I'm looking at you, God Eater. Why is it ranked 6.55 on Mal? What the hell?
Probably
is-
because it's
what?
literally probably just because it's a game adaptation. Like, to be honest, like,
Yeah.
like any
Yeah, exactly. There's also higher expectations usually from like anime weebs who haven't learned yet. Because like the new, I don't want to say like newer generation, but people who haven't been watching anime as much, when they encounter anime adaptations of games, they usually expect a lot more. It's kind of like how way back when, say Lord of the Rings fans were expecting everything in the books to be translated perfect into the movies, right? Which obviously then would lead into 12-hour movies. But it's kind of the similar thing with these games where you can't it's just impossible. You can't have everything in the game be translated into the anime. Else you would have a, an anime that lasts a million hours. So um people kind
I
of
don't
always
know.
set themselves up for disappointment.
Are they complaining that the swimsuits in there was a swimsuit episode? The swimsuits are different because I peeped their swimsuits in that's the Ryza one, and they're way different than the one shown in the anime. I don't know, man. Sure, me, I guess. There was also I don't know. Maybe people will just like that. It's not. I want to like from the very small information I have about Atelier, it's not one for one, but it follows a lot of the main story beats. There's
Mhm.
no there's no like weird turn.
Mhm.
weird turn that made everyone upset. I'm talking about you, Valkyria Chronicles. You know what I'm talking about. That stupid love triangle that no one liked at all. That was so dumb.
Anime game differences are very interesting to say the very least. But
But
anyway,
yeah, definitely give it a peep if you want actual good slice of life. Unlike some other isekais in this series, is this? I'm gonna
No.
make it an honorary isekai and say, hey, this is the best isekai this season. Best isekai slice of life. Jitsu wa Saikyo deshita? No. Level one with level one drop right? Screw that. Great cleric? Who cares? Sugar? What is it? Sweet,
yeah,
sweet,
sugar sweet.
sweet war? Whatever it's called.
Yeah, I
Screw
know what you're
that.
talking about.
Just watch Atelier Ryza. You'll get all of what you wanted with fun, slow life, and more. But yeah, nothing but praise for this. Good stuff.
All right.
That's not including the thighs.
The
That's
thighs
just a
also included
bonus.
another
It's
half water up.
just another layer on top.
Yeah, exactly. Anyways, thank you very much, Toast, then for Atelier Ryza. I know again, there were not like the highest sort of expectations for most of us who have seen a decent amount of these game adaptations, but I'm glad it came out strong out of the gate, and that it kind of stayed, it had a good formula to it. So again, if you guys are interested as well, the name again is Atelier Ryza, Ever Darkness, and what is it? Atelier Ryza, Ever Darkness, and the Secret Hideout. So
The secret hideout is her atelier. The ever darkness is, I guess, something to do with the ruin. So
yeah,
you get what you paid for. Because there's 3 games of this, so
yeah.
this might be just 12 episodes, and then season 2 is gonna be season 2 might be game 2. I'm for that. Sure.
But yeah, please do check it out. And next on this hit list is Dark. What do you have for us?
I
You cut out a bit there.
yeah, I have a level 1 demon lord and the 1 room hero. Or level
Alright.
1.
Yeah, I know this was
one
also
Maou
on
2.
sort of like the meme list.
Yeah, so this um is not an isekai series, just to get that out of the way. Surprisingly, looks like one. It is not. So this starts with 10 years ago, the hero Max defeated the Demon Lord. In order to regain his power, the Demon Lord went into a deep slumber. When he awakens, his body is only a chibi version of its fearsome. Now, curious to see what his enemy is up to, the Demon Lord visits Max, only to discover the mighty hero living in a dirty one-room apartment. Demon Lord decides to move in with Max and help his old enemy become a formidable opponent once more. So,
Wait,
yeah.
Why does he want the actual demon lord to become like strong like that again?
Well, no, the hero, he wants the hero to become strong. So the hero kills him in the beginning.
Oh, okay.
With his party, and then he shows up at his house,
Yeah,
and
sorry.
he's just a slob.
The demon
now.
lord is coming. Okay.
Yeah, and then 10 years later, he shows up reincarnated, and the hero is now just like a deadbeat.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's like Hataraku Mouse-sama, right? I think a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
I want to
It's
say
like-
more like I mean, I can see where you're going with it, but like, kinda.
It's the general thing of like, oh, they meet each other in normal Japan circumstances.
Yeah, okay.
It's also like a Yushibu, right? Or whatever that was. I couldn't become a hero, so I reluctantly decided to get a job. It's like that series.
Not really. So what happens? So with this series, what happens is like in the 10 years, the like Fantasyland modernized without a demon lord in it.
Yeah.
Or rather, the fantasy, the human empire, essentially. And so what this winds up focusing more so around is obviously is the relationship between Maou and Max. And kind of again like that said, you know, Maou trying to get him back on his feet, more or less. A common theme for it too is that like he's still got it, so to speak. You know, when the situation calls for him to use like superhuman strength or speed, he's very much still, you know, still that guy. The only problem for him though is that, you know, he caused such a time of peace that the world does not need a hero anymore.
Right.
You know, like he wasn't, and it kind of does fill in that with some of his like old party members are actually like out and about, and you know, like the cleric from his party is now a minister of magic for the human. The old like fighter like knight in his party is like the leader of a splinter, like a splinter faction in another, like a bordering sort of pseudo nation. And they're pitched more of like, I guess like country-ish slash, you know, like they're famous for like their hot springs and stuff like that. And there's an open conflict between the two that has a little bit of drama with it, but I'll get to that after. But you know, like he doesn't fit any of those roles because like he was the hero, right? Like he's not, you know, he's not a cleric, so he's not like swindling people, like, or well, like the cleric was swindling people. He's not like political, like involved in politics or anything like that. So there's kind of like nothing for him to do. And so this kind of just gets into a lot of hijinks between Maou and Max. And
what do you mean by hijinks?
so there's a lot of stuff like, see, I'm trying to think like him trying to find a career. Or there's like some bits of him trying to not get caught between his two old party members who are now two leaders of opposing nations, essentially.
Oh, okay.
So there's stuff like that. And
this is all episodic, right?
It's a little bit episodic. So the underlying through line, like the through line through all of the episodes right now, is kind of the conflict between the two nations, where Leo, the like muscle guy, you know, like that's kind of his whole bit. His nation is being considered terrorists by the Empire. And that's kind of like the through line where they're just basically misunderstood. Like they're just literally a nation that isn't actually doing anything. I think the implication right now, from what I'm caught up with, is that the Empire is like kind of sowing seeds of doubt themselves and like trying to manipulate the leaders within the Empire to consider them a like terrorist nation to like take their natural resources or something by force. So it's gonna be interesting to see like what that comes to a head with. Because that, as of right now, like I said, like Max is trying to stay neutral in between it, and it's kind of like his party members, his old party members, being curious as to like why the hell any of them, or why he's with what do you call it, with a demon.
Wait, what?
Like why he's hanging out with Maou, like why he's with the demon.
Yeah,
because
so that's one thing. Okay,
like a lot of what happens is they'll be like around these other people, and one of them will detect like a demonic aura or something.
Oh, okay. But otherwise, like it's just like chibi, so they're like, oh, it's whatever kind of thing.
Oh no, they're fully like ready to kill Maou when they come in contact with him. What was I gonna say? So like that's kind of like the major shticks they get into. There's, you know, there's not some minor. There's some other bits, like I said, like Max trying to get a job and then starting to try to be a YouTuber. which goes disastrously, which is very funny because some of the it's the first thing they do is him trying to do like a game let's play, and it's fucking terrible. But so one of the things is Max is voiced by Yuichi Nakamura, which turns into what do you call it? Which winds up turning into almost like if you imagine it's just him doing a shitty version of like Tokyo Encounter or like any of his game stuff.
Okay.
Like you can tell like he is absolutely hamming it up to make this as awful of a performance as possible, and
or
he
like
delivers
one of his
really
like,
well.
streams. Yeah,
Yeah,
on,
he
on
delivers.
his channels,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
he delivers really well to like make this really shitty. So yeah, and I'm not gonna spoil like how that episode ends with Maou, but there's a really good bit in that episode that comes to a close.
I almost
with.
want to watch it just for that
The-
sort of.
Yeah, that shit is really worth it. The I was gonna say there's like another running gag where Maou has like a transformation, a metamorphosis magic that he can use, but since he was given a like sailor suit by his secretary, who's in like I don't even know what she's supposed to be, but her whole shtick is like they do etchy shots for her and like fan service shots. But she's like, I don't know. It's hard to explain her character. There's a lot of really good bits where she tries to be serious in between very like slapstick, etchy like, or like etchy jokes, which really don't get. They don't really get like too like ham-fisted. I think they're like delivered well enough to where it's tiring, to be honest. And they kind of like bounce off of that where, you know, some ridiculous shit is happening, but she'll put on like a really serious voice. And it's also Hikase Yoko, so it's like, you know, she's doing like a very serious voice.
Can I ask a question real quick? So I know that there are sort of general points of conflict. I don't want to say like gimmicks necessarily, but like specific like areas where the story or the series goes back to kind of use for its humor, right? Like again, one is the whole one is the whole hero not being able to find a proper job or like not being able to do things that get him money properly. And the other one is again, as you said, the conflict between the cleric and the other guy, the warrior, right? I think.
Yeah, that's like the drama right now. Like there's not a ton of comedy that comes out of that. There are like comedic things that happen based on those conflicts, but when like the conflict is actually happening, it does tend to sober up a bit. It's usually then diffused by some comedic shticks or like how characters are behaving. It kind of like
so they are essentially treating that as the overall plot line or a bigger sort of grandiose plot line down the road.
Yeah, because like right now, what was it, in the beginning of the series, you know, Fred tries to recruit him for the Empire, Max abstains and goes like, no, I'm just like trying to check on you, like I'm not getting involved in this. And then like Leo's crew does the opposite, tries to like recruit him as well. But so far it seems to be kind of like it'll raise the stakes with drama, and then it'll kind of like let the air out with like comedic bits. And like kind of lowering the stakes or like showing that the stakes are really not that high. And I feel like that's how sort of they're going to diffuse drama as well, with like whoever is like pulling the strings behind the scenes gets caught, and then the two nations essentially coming together and making amends.
My guess is that at the very end, again,
Max,
be Max.
But meanwhile, Max being at the core of these events too. Max does wind up finding himself in the middle of these. Then like I guess like the other shtick is the transformation. What do you call it? The metamorphosis that Maou does, where he turns into a like, not really an Renaissance character, but like you know, he goes, "Oh, I should have the proper body type for the swimsuit or the not the swimsuit, the sailor suit." And so he turns into literally Max's described like type, quote unquote. Which does lead to, I mean, there have been genuine like romantic bits during this too. Like this could be classified as a
So is this a rom-com?
This
Okay.
honestly could be. Like, it's not labeled anywhere that it is, but it very much
Okay.
could be.
All right.
With a lot of the tone and a lot of the genuine romantic comedy bits that are happening.
But that part doesn't like the relationship. What's the relationship progression line like between Max and the hero?
It's slowly but surely starting. It's very much like a Maou forcing Max out of his shell type thing, and finding Max in scenarios that like kind of lets him know as well that like still has it, because there are a lot of situations where he kind of doubts himself, where he thinks like, oh, like there's a scene where he's like, oh no, there's like no way I can take on Leo in his top shape right now. And then there's, there is a scene where he does come to blows with him and holds him off, and like it's very much still probably stronger than him, even though he's been like doing nothing for 10 years. So like that's another thing that is happening here, where like, and then Maou is, making comments like, essentially like fanboying over him. Like, you still, like, yeah, you still got it. Like, I knew it. Like, you still are the hero that killed me.
Because that's sort of the background. That's the whole like initial premise of the story to begin with, right? It's like the whole reason why Max comes over is because he wanted the hero to be, or he wants to set up the hero to have a formidable fight again, right? That's the whole point, so.
It's very much that, though it kind of moves away from that very quickly into just Maou kind of fanboying over Max, and again, literally like falling in love with him more or less. Yeah, there's a whole like marriage bit and everything. It's very like heavy-handed, to where again, I do think you could add a rom-com tag to this and it would be fine.
How are the audio visuals like in this?
So that is something I definitely wanted to get into, because this is being done by Silverlink and Blade. So I'm not really sure what Blade has done. Looks like Blade did Ayashi Made.
Okay.
Not
That's
a
not
ton.
Too bad.
Yeah, they haven't really done a ton of stuff. They've done like some of the Honkai Impact stuff, it looks like, which are very good looking. But yeah, not like a ton of stuff, but it's also Silverlink. So audio visuals are very good. I'd say these are really, really good audio visuals, especially because there are very impressive fight scenes, especially for like flashbacks that you would think would be inconsequential. And they do put in work for a lot of these cuts. There is even like a jokey, like, I don't know, I guess I would God, what was that? Why can't I think of the series? Oh yeah, why can't I think of that? Yeah, I would describe it as almost like Bento-esque in certain scenes, where they're doing like comedy action bits, and they're putting in a lot of work for it at the same time. Yeah, there's like a drunken fist fight where the secretary gets drunk, tries to fight him, and initially tries to fight him, gets the floor mopped with her immediately. But then later, like, some shit happens. She's in his apartment, gets drunk, and then comes to blows with him again, and is like 10 times faster. And shit like that. So there's a bit like that where, again, the cuts are actually really clean for the fights. Which is really nice. There's a lot of really cool effects.
Not too surprising, because Silverlink is pretty solid studio, but I'm surprised to see that much money did successfully translate into the animation.
Yeah, it's a it very much is like I want to say it does feel like this series feels for some reason. I guess like maybe it's between its art style, its like character designs, and like a lot of those cuts, and its tone feels like an older series, right? Like it doesn't feel like something that we're getting.
It's the animation style
Recently.
or the face animation style, as well as I guess the general like lines. I
Yeah,
guess,
the
in
action
artwork.
comedy, the higher quality like action higher quality, like the etchy bits, everything like that. Like all of it feels like something that you would have expected to come out like 10, 15 years ago or something. And it's quite good. It's really, really good. It's very happy with it. Audio wise, one of the more standout things for this series is probably its soundtrack, I would say, which is weird to say, but it has some really wild tracks in it that are very standout. Like they don't, I mean, they take you out for a second because they're like really noticeable as to like what is this instrumental? Like this is, I wasn't expecting an instrumental like this from this series. Or like this quality, like this much of a standout track in a. So and I don't know if we would chalk that up to the sound director, which maybe, because I mean as far as credits go, the sound director for this has done Nisekoi, Masamune-kun, Kokoro Connect, Kiznaiver, Sangatsu no Lion,
So he's
Bakuchi
like a
Text.
Silver Link veteran, essentially,
Yeah,
from what I'm hearing.
he's done like everything. So that's been very cool. Director wise, oh, and then as well for audio, it's like all the voice acting is incredible. It's Naomi Ozura doing her. I mean, she's doing like a normal voice when it's the metamorphosis form, but in the chibi form, doing very much the
high pitched.
yeah, the higher pitched voice. What? God, what was that series? I believe she was in. Yeah. That would be it. Yeah, like the Jahi-sama voice, essentially.
Yeah.
Like that sort of voice for that, or the Uzuki-chan as well, like that type of stuff. So.
Oh yeah, Uzaki-chan. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And she can kind of switch between that. Yeah, and I think the other standout really in the series, which is kind of surprising to say, just because I feel like, sometimes he does standard fare stuff. His voice is very distinct, but Ichi Nakamura. His voice, while distinct, and he's a really good voice actor, I feel like, I haven't heard him a ton or been paying attention a lot to him doing a more like gruff voice, nor do I really know if he's had much as of late that would force him to do that.
I think
gruffer,
he's
older voice.
He's naturally getting that sort of grit in his voice as he grows older. Like if you notice, if you go back to a lot of his like younger roles, right, in something like Oreimo or in Blaze Blue way back when, and you compare it to stuff like now, like he and Sugita can still, and obviously a lot of the veterans can still do the high school Fujoshi cool guy kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I mean of course he's still Gojo Satoru.
But,
like
yeah. But
couldn't hit that
when
otherwise.
he's just doing like a standard like new character voice, and especially when he's doing it for something that's like a little bit more gritty, maybe something like a middle-aged man kind of stuff, you can really hear, not in a bad way, of course, but you can hear the age in his voice, like kind of out.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, I had commented earlier that like he is bordering on like what would you call it? What is his name? Unsho Ishizuka. Which is old Joe. People know him as old Joseph Joestar's voice actor.
Yes.
Before R.I.P. to the great. He like Nakamura
he's also
is able to like border
Oak in Pokemon.
Oh yeah. And so it's like if like you'll know his voice if you've watched JoJo as well, and it's like Nakamura is able to like you're hearing in Max's voice acting like that sort of really deeper, gruffer, like throatiness that old Joseph had, which is kind of really interesting to hear that level of like gravelly tone from Nakamura,
Right.
and kind of exciting, to be honest, because it's like, damn, like we're seeing, like, we're experiencing a voice actor get older and now like sound like you're like, oh, okay, so we can now hear where this sort of vocal tone like develop essentially over time, whereas before, like,
you can see the progression.
yeah, where it's like this industry and everything, really started with a lot of voice actors kind of at that stage already, like those older voice actors, especially with someone like Unsho Shizuka. It's like, we weren't hearing the young man voice of him, right? So now to hear that transition, and to hear someone be able to do kind of like both is going to be interesting, and to see that transition is going to be really,
Sure.
he's still
I'm
got
definitely
it.
looking forward to that, as well as, again, the him. I want to see. It's kind of funny because he and a lot of other voice actresses, like, what is it, uh Takuya Eguchi, right? I believe. Um, and a lot of like these older voice actors who don't necessarily seem that old, but they're all, like, in their latter halves of their 30s, going into their 40s, some even going into almost hitting their 50s, right? Um, these voice actors can still all do these sort of like standard high school male roles, but I'm interested again in seeing sort of their older character registers, I would want to say, as time goes on. I'm definitely
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's just been a surprising hit. Like, I know Toast had said it was good, and that was why I started doing it. And I figured it might have been pretty good. Like seeing some of like the cuts and art from it, but I really wasn't expecting to like it this much. Like, it is a very funny series. Yeah, it
I'm
does.
glad that
It
you
it
liked it.
deserves far more than a fucking Mall 6.9. Like, that's
Yeah.
a like joke.
Well, Moss scores,
Yeah, no, like
Moss
like
scores
like
are a
with
little bit.
how much fun I've had with this series, I would and how good it looks, and for what it's doing, I would expect it, like, like an easy 8 or something for this on Mall.
What
Yeah,
mouse score would you give it?
I would give it probably like an 8, 8.5, something. But a lot. Like,
Okay.
I would recommend this for anyone. And one of the best bits in the show, this is not, is that Max has a ghost woman living in his closet that he cannot see, and only a few people have seen at this point. And the bit is just that he does not know that that's there. So
Yeah, it's just like the woman just exists.
yeah, that ghost gets a lot of
Or-
play with some scenes, and very, very funny.
All right. Well,
Is
thank you.
Yeah, Kobayashi Yu as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, actually, I'm not too surprised, but it's a good casting. That's a good casting.
Yeah, and she is literally just described named as person in the closet, and because like she never gets a name. She's there as like a background gag, like constant for certain other.
Yeah, this
Whenever
general
the
cast
closet
of
of his room is involved, there's usually a bit with that character.
yeah,
God tier
this general
cast,
cast is just very good.
very, very good cast. Yeah, I would
Any
recommend it
last words?
for anyone who's looking for a comedy series like that.
Right.
Just in general, especially something that starts to hit on, I don't know, like the really good aspects of like a comedy series from years ago, like a Baka to Test or something like that. I guess you could say. If you like those series, if you Silverlink series, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think, again, what you described, and from the staff that I've seen, the little clips and stuff like that I've seen of this series, as well as what you described, I think definitely a good very solid package from Silverlink. Seems like it was kind of also had obviously it had money from the production companies, but it also had the backing of a lot of these um, veterans within the Silverlink offices. So pretty good product all around. And again, as Dark suggested, if you guys want to see a pretty good, solid comedy series, maybe a little bit of that hint of that rom com sprinkled in, but mostly just like a feel good romp all around, please do check this out. This series again is called Level 1 Demon Lord and One Room Hero, or
Oh,
Level 1 Maou, the
the
One Room Yuusha.
one other thing we didn't touch on, though, I will say just
Yes.
is that the director is also the director that you would probably most know from the Otome game, Flag, like the Death Flag Otome game, the like
Oh,
the
okay,
like
okay, okay.
first villainous series we really got into,
Yeah,
at least
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
animated wise.
And that was
So
good
if you like,
adaptation as well.
yeah, and so if you like that pacing, I would say this is also another thing that's going to be very similar pacing.
All right.
Again,
Yeah,
deserves
glad
far
that
more
he
than a
could
6.97.
All right. Well, thank you again very much, Dark. And I guess next on the list is me, and I'll go into another one that was sort of on the list, but might have been a little bit more memes, called Liar Liar. So this is a series
Is that your
done
favorite
by
movie, Spire?
yeah. I, so we need to provide before the podcast. We need to give pictures of each series to Dark so he can put them on the stream, right? Show which series we're talking about so far and so on. And I searched like just liar liar, right?
You fool.
Yeah. So when I searched it, I immediately got at least half a page plus of the movie starring Jim Carrey, and I was like, I forgot, God, I forgot. So I just like had to search like liar liar anime, but it was a pretty funny. It was a little bit funny overlap.
Spire, what's your favorite Jim Carrey movie? Sonic. You can't count. You can't count Sonic. It has to be actual Jim Carrey.
Yeah, no, I won't.
Jim Carrey, the character.
Yeah.
I would say the thing is like there are a bunch of so it's like I don't really have a favorite movie where I'm like, wow, Jim Carrey did like so well in this, except for The Mask, I guess. But it's
Look
like
at this. How dare you say that about the Truman Show?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
I was gonna
Truman
say the
Show
same
is
thing.
killer, dude.
all right,
Yeah,
Truman Show's
dude.
just like,
Come on.
that's true.
Eternal Sunshine?
think
Yeah, man. What's wrong
The
with
thing
you?
is, I always like the
21?
Truman Show is a classic, but I
or
always
no, it's
forget it.
23. Was it 23 or
I think it's.
21?
Batman
it's 23.
Forever
I don't
as
remember.
Jim Carrey as the Riddler? How dare you?
The funny thing is, I know Truman Show is like the classic, but I like whenever somebody
this
mentions
not
like,
have
okay,
a-
Jim Carrey movies, go. I always remember The Mask and The Grinch over Truman Show, and I don't know why. But those two kind of just like pop up into my
Mr.
brain
Popper's
more.
Penguins? Flubber, but with Robin Williams instead of
I
Jim
always
Carrey?
remember the shitty ones like Bruce Almighty stuff as well.
Hey,
instead of,
I like-
Bruce
hey,
Almighty is
hey,
not
how
shitty, dude.
how dare you say Bruce
It's-
Almighty?
You're playing
okay.
your hand.
Okay, dude.
Bruce Almighty is
Bruce Almighty is not a good movie.
Evan Almighty's
Yeah,
the bad
Bruce
one,
Almighty.
man. Bruce Almighty's the
Bruce
good one.
Almighty was
How dare you?
fine.
It's
All right?
Had some good
I
mean,
bits.
Evan Almighty had Steve Carell, but like,
It's-
come on, he
it's
can't.
a fun movie, but it's not a good movie.
it's it's a fun movie. I think it's a movie. But yeah, anyways, I always forget his like classic stuff, and I always remember like the stupid stuff.
Mine's Ace Ventura easily.
Ace Ventura is also
Ventura and the
classic, yeah,
Mask.
exactly.
Classics.
Ace Ventura,
Yes,
very
yes, sir.
good.
Hey man, Batman Forever. He made a
Honestly,
really good.
I don't really
Deliver.
remember it that much. Like Liar Liar is a fine like movie, like a fine family movie. It's not.
Yeah.
I feel like Liar Liar is probably one of the weakest. Like,
Yeah.
Anyways, that was neither here nor there with regards to the actual anime line.
I think it's really relevant. I think it's
It was fire. How dare you?
We just have to get it out of the room. We have to make sure that we know that Jim Carrey is not in this anime.
Chris,
Just have to
Jim
get
Carrey
that
is a fantastic actor. Did you see
Yeah,
his
and
real
he
life
should have
face?
been.
Oh yeah.
Should
Yeah.
have been in
Yeah.
this. Better.
But anyways, I wish he had dubbed one of the characters. That would have been pretty great. But anyways, this is a series done by Geek Toys. Geek Toys have done a lot of kind of like smaller stuff more recently. Obviously they've done a lot of in between stuff as well in the I want to say past 5 to 7 years or so, maybe a little bit more. Um, but recently they did helped with the most recent Data Live, I believe, Data Live 5, right? As well as Data Bullet movies. They did Adventurers Who Don't Believe in Humanity Will Save the World. That was a recent sort of like isekai kind of, not isekai, but like isekai like kind of thing. Hensuki, they did Kandaga Jet Girls. They did
Wow.
Plunder, which is not that good, or Read Righted. So they had like some misses, but you know, it
They
is what
did
it is.
Dead Mode Death Play as well, I believe.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, I think overall their audio visuals or their staff is pretty solid, and they use most of, um, I think, their directors as well as sort of like the major kind of staff, the episode director, the art director, and stuff like that. Um, most of like the major players are from uh Geek Toys, but then like everybody kind of every like the majority of the animation casts are from the subcontractors. I think it's a Korean subcontractor called Namu Animation, and they have like a bunch of Korean animators from there as well. So they borrow a couple of subcontractors, mainly again animation, borrowing from Namu Animation, but for the most part, they do like uh, the veterans. The major players are all kind of veterans from Geek Toys, and the audio visuals are pretty decent for what it is. I think the animations, the character designs themselves, and the general artwork is pretty standard to almost slightly above average in terms of like a general rom-com harem kind of just battle academy kind of series. And the actual frames and the fight scenes pan out pretty decently for what it is. It was above average because usually I would expect a lot less or a lot of just like, oh, this is a PowerPoint kind of thing for these sorts of series. But I was pleasantly surprised at how smoothly the animation and the fight scenes turned out to be. So pretty good. The OP the I wasn't too impressed by the general OST, but the OPED was decent if I remember correctly. Yeah. Or so the ending theme by the cast members by I guess the harem, right? And then the story Fakey Mary Game by Smile Princess. I believe that's sung by the cast members or something like that. Yeah, I think it's probably like sung by the. No, okay, never mind. It's actually sung by the idol people, so like an idol group called Smile Princess. But yeah, I wasn't too hung up on it or anything, or wasn't really too impressed by it. The opening is Lies Goes On by Main, who this opening is a very main opening. If you've heard of other main openings, you sort of know what I'm talking about. This opening is the most main thing that Main has ever made. uh, it's yeah, I don't know how to describe it otherwise. It's a very like 2010s Nico like techno like I'm gonna be Main kind of thing. So I wasn't too again. It was nice to listen for me personally, but on a more objective sense, I wouldn't be like, wow, this was a freaking masterpiece. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it is what it is. Um, but solid in that sense if you want to listen to it. Um, Going straight on into the story a little bit, I believe this is a sorry, no, it's a light novel adaptation. So light novel adaptation, and what it is you're in a battle academy. The name doesn't matter. It's like Academy Island, and then there's all of these, sorts of like Japanese names or whatever. That's not important. They in this battle academy, people play each other in games. You can have like it doesn't necessarily have to be 1v1. It can be like multiple people and like multiple groups and stuff like that. And they battle each other. They battle in games to win stars from each other. So if you win, you take the stars of your opponent, vice versa. And if you get enough stars, you become the prestigious sort of 7-star. There's only supposed to be like one person who can earn these like 7 stars, and most of the other sort of like tough opponents are called like 5 stars or 6 stars or whatever. Or if they have like colors, it's the red star, the indigo star, or whatever it is, right? Stuff like that. So the main character, he's essentially a nobody. He has no stars. He's a newcomer to the academy. He accidentally beats this red-haired girl who is initially a tsundere called Sarasa, I believe, or she calls herself Sarasa, Sarasa Sayonji, and takes her star and finds out that she's actually not the person she um, professed to be, and that she she was supposed to be sort of like the 7-star representative, but then now he, after beating her, has to sort of take on that mantle and pretend to be the 7-star when he's not really, and take on all newcomers at the academy. Essentially, the lore kind of railroads him into this state where like he has to defeat all newcomers and like kind of not get screwed over and stay at the academy by playing games against all these like strong opponents that come up have actually earned these stars. Whereas he's just like a newcomer who accidentally beat the other red-haired girl, and now he has to pretend like, oh, I'm the strongest in the academy. Everybody come at me. And he has to use, his wits. He has to use the resources at hand because the academy is willing to help him kind of trick people. And the academy also provided him with a maid called Shirayuki Himeji, Himeji Shirayuki, who is very smart and very like capable and like knows how to like plan out stuff for the games and stuff like that, and who is willing to help him as well. So the general plot of the story kind of progresses in that there's sort of there is an underlying plot about how the red-haired girl Sayoji Sarasa isn't actually Sarasa. She's supposed to sort of be like a fake, a body double, who is standing in for the real Sayonji, who has been kidnapped, and then that's sort of like a deeper plot about the academy and all this crap later on. That's again not very important, and I'm not too bothered about not knowing about that, to be honest, because that's all that sort of same crap you usually see in animes. But the important part is how there are these sorts of mini arcs in the anime that are contained around beating opponents, beating certain students in the academy. New opponents rise up, and the three have to kind of rack their brains, or yeah, the three, the main guy, the red hair girl, and the maid, have to all rack their brains to figure out how do we beat this guy in this game, um, while using tricks, wordplay, and like mind games, and all this sort of stuff to beat the opponent. So because so what also happens in this game is that like the more stars and like stuff like that you have, the more sort of abilities you gain, and these abilities are like literally stuff like like disguise XYZ thing or like whatever, and they're actual like powers in the game that can take effect in the game, or like you can like tell a lie about whatever, blah blah blah. And since he doesn't have these powers, right, he needs to he needs to kind of lie again about what he did, right? He can't just be like, the academy just hired a good, really smart maid, and used the drone to spy on you, and that's how I won. He needs to lie about the abilities that he doesn't have and make up this like cool story about how he's a 7 star and he's the top of the academy and did all these cool abilities and tricks to beat the opponent. So that's sort of how this pans out. And again, that's sort of the main thing over any explanation of the game or the lore or whatever the other crap is. But other than that, I think there's not too much to it. The way I feel about this thing
So
is
does
like,
he actually like cheat or not?
there's not. Yes, he essentially does cheat because the idea is like, there's a sort of usually a lot of times, like sometimes there's um how do I say it? Some he doesn't cheat in every game, but like for instance some of the earlier stuff where he gets help from the academy, so it's like he's getting help from like an outside player during the actual game, right, when it's supposed to be a 1v1 kind of thing. That is um a thing that does happen, but a lot
Right.
of times also it's more just like he and the maid and the red haired girl kind of plan out a lot of the stuff beforehand. Like this is gonna happen. We should do this, and then we should do that. If you run to this room and then get this sort of card, a lot of this is sort of a lot of the games are based around like card games, and like tabletop kind of game kind of stuff.
Sure.
Um, so
So is it
it's
more like one of
a
those
lot of it's
series
like
that's like
planning
a
out.
setup and then payoff type thing? Like, do they do like the rundown essentially, like not
Yeah,
really
it's
like
a
a
setup and
heist,
payoff,
but
but it's like they don't show it, as in with most stories slash anime, they don't show necessarily 100% of the thought processes and full details beforehand. So then when the opponent gets caught in the final trap and he's like, what? My phone, it says something else or whatever it is. And then and only then will the MC be like, ha, that's because I did blah 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 blah. And the audience will be like, oh, okay, you didn't really tell me about that, but sure, I guess. So it's like that sort of series. But I I think the audio visuals are nice, and it kind of like stuck out to me because usually the audio visuals are much more mediocre in these sorts of series. But I'm glad it got enough money to get this sort of stuff going. Um, as for the story, the issue is all of the character interactions and just like the general character setups, really, of the game or of the series are just not good. It's just not good. It's either it devolves into very not even standard, like below average rom-com dialogue, or the whole, like, oh, I can't let you get out of the academy. I can't let you get kicked out of the academy like this. We're all here to you're here because you work so hard. I can't let somebody like that just leave. You know, fucking lines like that, right? And
Right.
the usual. Um, and beyond that, I'm not really impressed by any of the lore details at all. Um, Nothing that I haven't seen before, really. Uh, the games and whatever are like nice, and the trickery is good, but feel like I feel like even having like the small, like the detailed explanations and like having them, outwit the opponent and doing that, it's nice, but gets dragged down too much by the rest of the series not holding up, which is kind of weird for me to say because I said at the very beginning of this review, oh, this isn't important. Like the lore isn't important, the game setup isn't important, whatever, this, that, and the other isn't important. But the other side of that coin is that if you don't take care of anything except for the actual solution, to the game, right? And like
Yeah.
a slight game rule, it really does kind of stand out because you have this sort of like not high point, but like a decent like point where you're going through the game and the characters are like, oh, we should do this and that and the other, um, and they solve and or not solve, but defeat the opponent right with their wits, and that's nice. But then immediately after that ends, the rest of it is at best below average and at worst pretty garbage. So uh, I just feel like it just gets dragged down by the pretty irrelevant and not very good lore, the pretty terrible character stuff, and just interactions in general, like the personality setups and interactions in general. Um, I'm not like super impressed by the setups of the game. It's not, and it's just I don't know, man. Other than like the one good point about this series, a lot of it kind of goes by the wayside, I think, from what the author does. And while I do respect the author for thinking out these more like intricate scenes, I'm not, a series needs to be complete. It needs to, uh, sure, it needs to do well what it's got with what it's got, but it also needs to at least be afloat on the other sort of parts of the story, the sort of interpersonal interactions part of the story, the slight kind of lore slash dramatization slash catharsis part of the story. It needs to stay afloat slightly on that stuff, or at least render it completely irrelevant, and it hasn't done either. And again, it just drags down the series too much because those parts are not good, and the contrast in quality really shows up um when the game portion of it ends. So I think if I had to rate this series on like a Mal list or Mal ranking or whatever, I would probably give it. Hmm. I'll probably give it a 4, maybe even lower. I would maybe give it a 3, just because the game, the mini arcs are nice, but it's just too much. I'm firmly of the opinion that if you I'm firmly of the opinion that a lot of these anime series, especially stuff that have underlying lore, especially stuff that have something like a rom-com or whatever elements to it, the core needs to be the character. The core needs to be the characters, like lore and like where they come from, and not not lore, but like how they interact with, right? The social aspect of the world, the personal relationships that form this sort of story, anime, whatever, um, need to come a little bit first, or need to be pretty solid before you make the rest of the game or the gimmick or the crafting or whatever else solid. And it simply failed. This series simply fails to deliver on that aspect. And so, even though the game aspect is pretty nice, I would have to give it a pretty bad score just on that sort of point alone. I think you have to make solid characters. You have to make solid interaction. Um, you can't just have very below average rom-com drivel and have that be littered out all across your backyard and your front yard, and then be like, hey, but the game part is nice. That's not gonna work. Sorry. So, um, I have to give it a pretty low score, 3 out of 10. The audio visuals are decent. The game part is decent, but it's just too much dragging it down. Too much. That's sort of all I have to say about it. There's not too much because, again, most of the value, quote unquote, that you gain from the series is kind of watching these game mini arcs pan out. All the other lore, whatever stuff, pretty painful to watch. It is what it is. But yeah, that was my review of Liar Liar, not the Jim Carrey movie, the anime, light novel adaptation done by Geek Toys, and I believe again most of their major player like top kind of staff are, I think, from previous anime that they've done, or like are probably within the studio, whatever. But they have contracted out to a couple of other subcontractors, namely Namu Animation, and the audio visuals still turned out pretty good. If you want to watch a little bit of like the intricate kind of game back and forth Battle Academy kind of series, I guess check this out. But I wouldn't really recommend it overall. Yeah, that was my review of Liar Liar. And we can now quickly go on to the news here.
Huh?
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was the last because I had Liar Liar. Sorry, in my head.
Damn,
We have to go
it's
on
so
to
over.
yeah, it's so over. But we want to go on to Nier instead. Sorry, I messed up the order.
Yeah. So I watched Dark Gathering.
Yes.
Um,
Manga
this is
original, I believe.
yeah, I think yeah, this is a manga original. This is Studio OLM main production.
Okay.
This is a supernatural horror, quote unquote, series. The staff is a bunch of producers, list being as long as my fucking arm. And then main director is Ikata Hiroshi, who recently did Magical Destroyers.
Okay.
He did Tonikaku Kawaii. What else has he done recently?
Other than like FLCL Progressive, this seems like a pretty okay list from what I'm kind of going, right?
Yeah, he worked on a bit of Princess Principal, it seems.
Uh-huh.
A bit of Flip Flappers, some of the early episodes.
Yeah.
Rolling Girls, he's done some stuff for Yu Yu Shiki as well. So, he's been in the industry for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he had a good run of success, in my opinion, with Magical Destroyers.
Yeah.
Script and series composition by Shigeru Burakoshi, who also worked on some similar stuff as the director. He did Shinmai Renkin Jutsushi, which was what the fuck was this? Oh, management of a novice alchemist.
Yes.
He also worked on Zombieland Saga Revenge,
Okay.
Taisho Samurai,
Mm-hmm.
Kakagurui episodes, Dororo,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So the staff behind this is pretty decent. The main synopsis for this is essentially our main character, Keitaru Gentoga, is a college freshman who is essentially cursed by an evil spirit, and the result of said curse is other spirits are very, he's basically a spirit magnet,
Mm-hmm.
and as a result, he had shut himself in. He became sort of a hikikimori for a few years. But one of his friends, Eiko Hozuki, who's the other sort of lead in this series, sort of pulled him out of that hole and is sort of trying to get him on the path to, being a normal guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess he takes a sort of job or a college course or something, and he becomes the tutor of a girl named Yayoi Hozuki, who just so happens to be Eiko's cousin, and she is sort of afflicted with this. I don't know if it's a curse or it's some sort of birth defect, but she has these strange looking eyes that just so happen to look like skulls.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of this, each of her eyes has two pupils, right? one of which sees the normal world, and the other of which sees the spirit world, and she's able to
That's
see.
the most Chunibyo shit I've heard
Yeah,
in quite a while.
yeah, it's very toony. And she's able to see both of them at the same time. And the story from there sort of becomes a sort of ghost hunting, ghost of the week kind of series where the main
Is
character
this a-
Keitaro
Is this
hates
comedy
ghosts.
focus? Or
So
is
this has a comedic sort of bent to it, but it is not
Okay.
comedic focus at all. It's a
Okay.
it's sort of a drama. It's sort of a ghost hunting thing. It's got a lot of stuff going on, right?
Okay.
But the main I guess setup is the main character hates ghosts. He hates spiritual, stuff, because he's been cursed for, years, and it fucked up his life. But Yayoi is super interested in the occult and ghosts, and she's always wants to see, like hunt down ghosts and go to haunted places. And it's revealed later on that the reason she wants to do this is because about a year prior, she had lost both of her parents in a car accident.
Okay.
And due to her, being able to see the spirit realm, after the car accident, she was able to see essentially her mother's spirit get basically kidnapped by some other evil spirit. And her mother's spirit is not able to rest peacefully as it should. So she's been essentially ghost hunting ever since to track down the
Wait,
evil spirit.
Can you clear this up? So the evil spirit kidnapped her mother's ghost or spirit,
Yes.
I guess? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I guess like as she died, this evil spirit swooped in
Okay,
and,
okay.
and stole her mother's spirit, which
Mhm.
prevented her from being able to, rest peacefully
Okay.
after their funeral or whatever, right? So she's hunting down evil spirits in order to, find this evil spirit that took her mother. And she wants to stick with the main character because he is a, spirit magnet, right? Like they're just super attracted to him
Yeah.
because of his curse, and her being a super effective ghost hunter, spirits avoid her, right?
Right.
So they sort of team up, and hijinks ensue. It's relatively episodic. There's a bit of the main overarching plot with the general, wanting to hunt down this certain spirit. They're also sort of trying to lift this curse that's on the main character. The curse, by the way, is also fucking disgusting. They sort of go into it in that he has this spirit that's sort of attached to his right arm. And he wears a glove on his right arm. And the reason he wears this glove is because the curse sort of essentially makes it so his nerves like grow outside of his skin.
What the
And he has to like normally get his hand quote unquote exercised, which is literally just them like numbing his arm and essentially cutting off all the nerves. But yeah,
Did they
it's
show that in the anime?
yeah, they show it. It's
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
gross. It's not like bloody or anything. They sort of show it as like these white like strings that are sort of just growing outside of his hand. But it's still really disgusting.
Right.
But yeah, it's a pretty interesting series. Like I said, there's a sort of comedic bent to it. A lot of the character interactions are sort of like, like the main dynamic is the main character hates spirits. The little girl loves spirits, and then Eiko, who's sort of like the main character's childhood friend, um, is kind of just like constantly supportive of wanting to get the main character sort of out into the world, right? So she's constantly sort of pushing him into these scenarios where they're encountering ghosts and going to these haunted places and whatnot.
So does Eiko go with them a lot, or
Yes.
like?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
She
she
doesn't have any
is
powers, right?
so she doesn't have any like. So the main character
she's
can
knowledgeable?
essentially sense ghosts, right? Like he can
Okay.
sense the malevolence of like evil spirits and stuff like that. And Yayoi, the little girl, can obviously see, like physically see ghosts, right?
Mhm.
But Eiko can't, like she has no, like she's completely ignorant of whether there's, spirits around or anything.
Mhm.
So she's pretty carefree, but she's also cursed, by the same thing that the main character's cursed by. And the
Eiko?
main character, yeah, Eiko's cursed.
Okay.
So she's also cursed, but it's on both of her hands.
Mhm.
And the main character sort of feels guilty about that, because I guess whatever happened to get him cursed, like she sort of got wrapped up in. They don't really go
Mhm.
into it too much yet. Um, but yeah, a lot of it is sort of, um, it's like the character interactions are comedic, and then they sort of get into these um, like haunted situations to where it sort of almost becomes like a supernatural like battle shonen kind of thing,
Mhm.
where like they're fighting these ghosts or they're hunting down the ghosts or they're running from the ghosts or exercising them in some way, right? Um, and then afterwards, it sort of becomes like more serious like character drama with some more introspection about the curses and the character motivations and stuff like that. um, and it balances it pretty well. Um, I think the comedy sometimes comes in at sort of awkward times. Like there will be some serious character moments, and then it's like time for comedy, and then it's like this didn't really fit and with this timing, right? Um, but overall, it's pretty decently balanced, I'd say. Um,
Does the
the
main
comedy.
character gain powers like throughout? I mean, like, so like right now, the initial premise is that he's essentially bait for the
Yeah,
actual
he is effectively bait for Yayoi to hunt down the ghost, right? Like she is
Yeah.
like the ghost hunting expert, um, and the main character Keitaro is kind of just there, um, to help her, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I'm aware, he doesn't really gain anything.
Okay, so they don't have any like arcs or where it's like training combat arc to gain this small power to help defend your, that
No,
sort of
so
stuff,
so
right?
the
It's
only
just
like
okay.
training that he does is sort of like some physical training because the main character's grandmother is like a a priestess, like a Shinto priestess or whatever, shrine maiden or
Mhm.
whatever. Um, and she has like sort of given him advice that a strong body makes it harder for a ghost to possess you, right?
Mhm.
So that's pretty much all he's really doing is sort of exercising and stuff like that. But as far as I'm aware, he's not going to start shooting ghost beams out of his hand, right?
Mhm.
But that could happen.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
How are the audio visuals in this series?
so they're actually pretty decent. Like I said, it's Studio OLM. Um, I have a feeling there's probably a shitload of subcontractors on
Yeah,
this.
if you just look at down, the animation has like like at least like 7+ subcontractors.
Yeah, they're like there's I figure just with the amount of fucking producers involved in this, but
Yeah.
the audio visuals are pretty good. The art style is so the character designs are pretty interesting because the proportions are a bit uh odd, I guess, from something that comes out like in the current year. They feel more um I don't know, like late, like around like the 2010 era.
Mhm.
Um, with some of the bigger like noses and the very big eyes and stuff like that. Which I guess is from the manga, right? The color palette is pretty vibrant, which is pretty I guess nice because sometimes they do like, when they try to lean into the horror aspect of it, um, I guess they sort of make Yayoi's like purple hair a bit more vibrant, and then they make her eyes glow like a bright red,
Oh,
which
like
is
she's almost getting a buff or something.
yeah, which is it's a nice touch. And then when it's like not doing the horror stuff, the color palette is, in some of the more serious moments, it's a bit more subdued, but in the more like slice of lifey comedy moments, it's almost like it's sort of reminiscent of like I kind of want to say like a Nisekoi like color palette, but a little bit more like not quite as vibrant. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The hair
Not as
colors.
much pastel colors.
Yeah, the hair colors are still very bright. The environments are fairly bright. So it's an interesting contrast between like the normal slice of life stuff and then the horror aspect. But yeah, it's a pretty charming series. As for like the actual ghost stories, so far they're pretty interesting. So I'm not like super into like Japanese ghost stories, right? But I've heard of some of the more famous ones, right? And a lot of the early episodes do seem to be very much like heavily based on pretty famous like Japanese ghost stories, right? Like one of the
What do you mean a
first.
lot of them? Okay.
So one of the first like haunted places they go to is this haunted phone booth, right? Where you know the story that the anime sort of presents is that there's this haunted phone booth where this lady got sort of murdered in, right? And her like vengeful spirit will like if you go into the phone booth, like the ghost will basically kill you, right?
Okay.
And there is a fairly famous Japanese ghost story about this phone booth that's like disconnected. Um, I think they call it like the wind phone or something. It's this disconnected phone booth where you can go into it and you can pick up the phone. And if you listen to it, you can hear like the voices of the deceased, right? It's a fairly famous like Japanese ghost story. So they sort of took a twist on that, I guess. And then another one of the stories is they go to, the shrine, because the main character needs to get his hand like exercised or whatever, right? And in this shrine, they have a collection of haunted Japanese dolls, right? And one of these dolls ends up possessing the main character and sort of uses her hair to attack the main character, right?
Oh, okay.
And this is based off of probably the most, what I would see as like the most famous Japanese ghost story, which is the haunted doll that's like it's alleged to have like human hair, right?
Right.
And its hair like literally will grow, and it's
Like long
maintained.
black haired. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's actually like there is an actual shrine in Japan that like has this doll, and there's photos of it and stuff. And apparently it's in one of the basements or whatever, and there are like monks and stuff that actually have to maintain this doll's hair, otherwise its spirit gets angry or whatever.
So near.
There are also multiple
Here, who would win in a
monsters that
fight?
have that sort of long hair. Sorry, Toast. Go on.
Yeah.
So near. Who would win in a fight? The Dybbuk box or that doll?
I don't know. Probably the doll, I guess. I'm not too sure. But yeah, a lot of the ghost stories are sort of based on like Japanese, occult stories and creepy stories and stuff like that. They're not like the stories aren't like exactly the same. Like they're very much sort of twists on like these real life stories. but I imagine if you're like really into Japanese ghost stories, you'll probably catch like pretty much all of these references,
Mhm.
which is kind of cool. But I've only kind of delved into like surface level stuff, like some of the more
Yeah,
famous
yeah,
ones,
yeah.
right? So,
Here.
um,
Is Hachishaku-sama in this series? She's
uh,
relatively new, is she not?
I think so. I don't know. I've only watched
The
like 5.
8-foot tall lady.
I think there's like 9 out of them out right now. I've watched like 6 of them. The most recent one I watched, I think, was a pretty obvious riff on Ring, right? Which was they take this college course, which is basically like a ghost class, right? Which is pretty funny. But the professor shows them this tape, right? Which is kind of fucked up actually. Where they show this tape of this dude like committing like suicide, right?
Mhm.
And like in the middle of the class, the tape changes from like this like random dude to like the main character, right? It shows like the main character, um, and in the tape, like he lights himself on fire, and then um, like the main character is sort of like cursed with like that, and they sort of have to exercise the spirit um, before the main character like actually lights on fire, right? And the way they do that is they exercise the ghost, like they force the ghost out of the tape into this like straw doll, and then they force the doll to watch like the video itself, so that way like the ghost is essentially like cursed with its own curse, right? um but yeah, it's a pretty obvious, riff on Ring, right? Where you watch this tape and, you'll die in 7 days or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it's stuff like that. And it's all pretty fun, like I said, there's a comedic bent to it. It doesn't take itself like super seriously.
But I think the main also kind of attraction to this series is kind of, I guess, both the characters, but how kind of the girl uses the power to kind of interact or fight against the monsters and stuff like that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and how they get out of sticky situations.
yeah. It's fun.
Mhm.
Like I said, not super serious. Um, the characters are all very fun. Their interactions are pretty fun.
Mhm.
Um, you know, they have all got some sort of, I guess, trauma or baggage, which leads to some nice character moments and introspection. Um, they've all got this sort of uh, eclectic bent to them, right? Like even Aiko,
Yeah.
who's supposed to be like the normal one of the three, right? She has this sort of almost um, yanderish, like secret obsession with the main
Mhm.
character. Um, and it's revealed later on that she sort of uses these um, spooky, haunted, scary ghost situations to, in her mind, like strengthen the main character's like urge to protect her, right? Because
Oh, okay.
yeah, like she's sort of um, like madly in love with the main character, right? Um,
Mhm.
but it doesn't really get into like real like yandere territory. It's sort of like just this comedic kind of thing, at least right
Mhm.
now. I don't know
Yeah.
if it does later on. Um, but yeah, as for voice cast, the main character is voiced by Nobunaga Shimazaki. He's doing a pretty standard, main character voice, right? Um,
Mhm.
it's not really too much to write home about. I mean, he does a uh, good job of it. Yayoi, the girl with the skull eyes, is voiced by Yu Sasahara,
Mhm.
who is not really a newcomer per se, but she's a relatively newer face um, in the voice acting industry.
Yeah.
She recently did, I think one of her most recent main roles was in Shadow's House, right? The blonde girl, Emiliko.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but
One of the
yeah,
main characters.
and then Eiko is voiced by the one and only Kana Hanazawa, who does a pretty good job here. She's sort of doing a
Very
kind of
standard, run of the
yeah,
mill
a
kind of
relatively
One-Night-Stand.
standard like Onesan role.
Yeah.
She kind of has this sort of clumsy, ditzy airhead bent to it as well. Which Kanahan is always very good at doing. She's very good at these clumsy characters, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
she occasionally still tries to dip into the whole like, Kana Hanazawa's attempt at being quote unquote scary or menacing or whatever, which, as we've gone over, she's never really been able to do, right? It's just, Kana Hanazawa, I think, is a very flexible voice actor, but
Yeah.
that is just a role that she's never been able to tackle, unfortunately. But she does do it every once in a while in this. She's still not very good at it, but everywhere else, she's pretty spot on here. But yeah, the voice cast so far is quite good for the core cast. Yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty good series. It's definitely better than I was expecting. It helps that it doesn't try to go super hard in like being a horror series. It's sort of just a, Japanese ghost story.
Vibe, but you also have the powers of the characters
Yeah,
and trying to get out of stuff.
yeah, it's
like
more of a ghost hunting series than it is
Yeah,
a
exactly.
ghost haunting series. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
Ghostbusters kind
Yeah, so that definitely lends it a lot of I don't know, brownie points. Yeah, I guess.
it's a little bit more flexible, and it doesn't have because trying to really be like, oh, we're horror, we're really creepy kind of thing, really, I think, sets you up on a higher bar, especially since like a lot of times, unless you're doing like jump scares, right? You have to go full creepy, right? And again, that's a much harder bar to clear,
Yeah, I think
especially with stuff like Junji Ito already existing, right?
yeah, I think I think in the anime medium, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like it's very hard to do horror. You know what I mean? Outside
That's
of just raw body horror or shock value, right? It's
jump
very
scares.
hard to be like genuinely creepy, right?
Yeah.
So it helps when, a quote unquote horror series has some other aspect to it to sort of, um, lift up what's there, right? And I think this does that pretty effectively. Um, it's a solid show. I think it's very charming. It does what it wants pretty well. Um, and yeah, I probably recommend it. Again, if you like Japanese ghost stories or just ghost stories in general, I think there's a lot to like here. Um, if you want just sort of um, a general, I guess, somewhat comedic yet somewhat serious series that has, just relatively likable characters, I think you'll find a lot to like here. Overall, solid. I'd probably rate it maybe 7.5. Maybe, if it develops into something a little bit more, I'd probably bump it up to an 8.
Okay.
But right now, it's just overall solid. I'd recommend it for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little bit more interested in seeing how it develops, and obviously watching. But that was, I think, yeah. I'm glad that you covered this because I honestly didn't know what to make of it because I have a little bit. I don't have like necessarily bias, but I've never been like, oh, I should watch this horror anime. Again, for similar reasons as you just stated, right? It's more
Yeah, I
hard
mean,
to.
like I said, when you see an anime and it's like horror, right?
Yeah, you're like, okay.
You kind of get this sort of immediate like bad taste in your mouth. And it really doesn't help that a lot of anime with the horror genre or subgenre try to lean into it really hard in terms of marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like even something like what was that other ghost series with girl that's like haunted or whatever, Miracle-chan, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a comedy series, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
and yet its marketing is still very much like, oh, there's ghosts and it's scary, right?
Yeah.
When that's not really what the series is, right?
And it's like it's good to, and it's fine if you have like a comedic horror, but don't be like, oh, it's like Saw or like it's like The Ring, like
Yeah.
freaking yeah. Don't set the hurdle to don't overpromise and then underdeliver. A little bit unfortunate, but I'm glad that this series kind of panned out to be pretty good on that front. So again, thank you Nier for helping cover Dark Gathering. This is a manga original that was adapted by OLM Studio OLM as well as a bunch of the however many subcontractors has seems to have pretty good audio visuals and then a pretty good kind of anime structure, I guess, as well. General good storyboarding and pacing. So please do check it out when you have the time. And with that, we're going to move on to actually news. Again, I apologize for making stuff up. A lot of kind of company news in these past couple of weeks here. First, the former Toei producer Kim Muneyuki announced on Monday that he has established a new movie and video works company called K2 Pictures. So I guess we'll see how it
Kind of
kind
a
of works out.
narcissistic logo, huh?
Yeah.
Like it's just his name.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's a little bit interesting, but we'll see how it goes.
I don't know, Nier.
Is
Is it more narcissistic than Kojima production?
well,
Not
Kojima is
no.
also narcissistic.
I like
Yeah.
Kojima production though, so
But yeah, he was credited for the planning and production for the Shin Kamen Rider live action film. He did he was the executive producer for stuff like Lip Film Live, as well as the Seven Deadly Sins the movie. Did some other stuff, Tiger and Bunny the movie, so on and so forth. So we'll see how this goes.
So this is mainly focused on live action?
I think they're probably going to help on you know how it's like a lot of smaller studios tend to help on like movies and stuff like that.
Right.
My guess is that's what they're going to focus on. So or obviously they might branch out. It says like general video programs and stuff like that. So they might branch out to the OVAs or like game trailers or
Right,
animation
right.
scenes or whatever it is. But I think a lot of smaller studios start out with like in between help movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, this being Muneki Ki, he might be able to get bigger contracts as like a he might end up having like key pictures as sort of the main animation production studio and whatever, right? But it'll probably start out with something like a movie. I don't know whether it'll be live action or not, but we'll see. So yeah, that and then the next piece of news here is Disney CEO Bob Iger announced during the company's earnings call that Disney plans to restrict password sharing for accounts on its Disney Plus service sometime next year. So this is similar to what Netflix for, right? Blah blah. Currently, Iger added that the current company is currently exploring "quote unquote" the best options for paying subscribers to share their accounts with friends and family.
Haha.
Blah, blah, blah. And also, just like Netflix, Disney also announced that it is raising the price of its ad-free tier from $10.99 to $13.99 US dollars per month. While the ad-free tier for Hulu will rise from $14.99 to $17.
Jesus.
Blah.
Hulu's
So
really.
I think it's gonna be again like Disney and Netflix aside. This is also why I keep saying that the recent march, the inexorable march of globalization and digitalization of manga and like light novel subscriptions, right? That we've been seeing, and the various like subscription models that we've seen, right? This is sort of why I've said that it's a necessary evil that and why I've always been kind of afraid, right? Because in the process of
getting some decent, accessible service, right? I think those sorts of manga subscription services will see these sorts of examples and act on it sooner rather than later. And they'll be like, yeah, we have some like jump series. Now you have to pay us like $35 per month. Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Don't
Don't do this
forget,
to us.
just a few days ago, I think, Bob
Mhm.
Iger, the man, the myth, the legend, recently said he was personally offended that the SAG-AFTRA strikers did not accept the recent deal that was proposed by
Yeah.
executives. So,
I mean, he's going to be
you know,
personally offended when members of that union tell them to suck them off, I guess. So
yeah,
But yeah, a lot of these things will also be heavily affecting. Obviously, Disney Plus already have their hands in the anime cookie jar,
yep.
but anime aside, this is gonna affect all media, light novels, even web novels, um, probably visual novels, manga, just like everything. So we need to make sure that we kind of look over this and be careful of um, sort of this march, and that it hopefully doesn't go into a really bad direction where you have one really shitty company just being like, yeah, we're just gonna raise prices and fuck you guys. It's gonna take $50 a month for you to watch, for you guys to read Naruto now. So anyway, uh, what is it? Oh, just like a little bit of like small artist news. Apparently, so I mentioned earlier this podcast, or I might have mentioned before the podcast that um there's a series coming out called Dekaboko Majo no Oyaku Jijo. It's like a series about like a small kind of lolly witch mom and her big boobed like taller daughter, right? And the opening is, I believe, being done by Mizuki Nana, and the ending is being done by Angela, both very famous anime song off or artists. And on the tails of that, I believe, or not on the tails of that, but just a little bit before that, I forgot, this actually happened in June, I believe, but they the staff of the Soukyu no Fafnir, Fafnir of the Azure, Behind the Line spin-off anime, announced at a screening event on Sunday that the duo Angela, right? So Angela is like an entire band; it's not just a singer. The duo Angela has been certified by the Guinness World Records for quote unquote most songs sung by the same artist for an animation. Apparently, Angela has performed like pretty much all of like the 31 theme songs or whatever, including opening, ending, and insert theme songs for the Fafnir television anime in 2004 to this spin-off, Soukyu no Fafnir Behind the Line in 2023. I did not know that.
Jesus
That's
Christ.
very rare. But I didn't know that they just made them sing everything. But I mean, it's like they're a good band. But Jesus Christ, guys. But yeah, congratulations to Angel. I guess a little bit belated, but next piece of news. The Association of Japanese Animations (AJA) revealed the 4 anime projects in its latest round of "quote unquote" anime no tane, anime no tane, last Thursday. So this is, I believe, an animator training program, one of many that we've seen in the past 10+ years, right? Where
Yep.
they pay money to kind of have people do
New
these projects
generation
for
for the
like,
grinder.
yeah, exactly, right into the meat, right into the meat grinder. But they have them, or they put up contests, right, where aspiring artists can join, and then if they win, they get a little bit of money and like 1 or 2 years in a dormitory or whatever, and then they'll also get burned out there too.
Yep.
But yeah, the initiative is the latest iteration of the Agency of Cultural Affairs Young Animator Training Project, which aims to train young animators on the job. Blah blah. So, you know, instead of giving money to animators and making the industry better, they're just like trying to.
Congratulations, you won a paid internship.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually unironically what it is. But yeah, the 4 winners, I guess, the newcomers creating stuff will be Pop Pop City under Studio Graphinica, mainly with a target of pre-visualization production, key animation, and in-between animation. It's SCAT under Studio Goonies, with training people to be 3D CG animators and production managers. Kicks and Punk under Nippon Animation, training people to be production managers/directors or episode directors, character designers, animation director, and animator. Saltiel under Nouveau and Studio 8 Colors, training people to be assistant producers, animators, and cinematographers. So hopefully, I wish the best luck to all the young people. Last piece of sort of major company news here. In an email, this is a little bit more funny. I guess funny bordering on sad. In an email sent out on Tuesday, Fanfare / Ponent Mon publisher. So this is it's like a manga publisher, and they're kind of mostly known for publishing multiple titles from the late Taniguchi Jiro. So the publisher is like a very small company. It's like two people, I think, between two people. It's a partnership between Stephen Robson's Fanfare and Amiram Rivuni's Ponent Mon 2003. But the Fanfare side of it, Stephen Robson, the publisher Stephen Robson asked customers to not order books through the company's website due to not being able to access the website himself after his publishing partner, Amiram Rivuni, passed away in May earlier this year. Unfortunately, again, Robson explained that Rivuni passed away at 72 years old in May due to cancer, and the Rivuni had kept the access details to the company's website memorized. With his death, Robson cannot access or alter the website and thus has no access to orders and payments customers have made through the website. Robson advises customers to order from other retailers where the company's books are available. Like how
Why would you not
tell your partner? Yeah, exactly. Tell your
my
partner,
God.
please.
Or at least have it written down somewhere, man.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, man. But yeah, I hope this gets resolved somehow, but very unfortunate that this happened. But yeah, there's not too much other things to say about it. Anyways, that was it for pretty much all the major news. Just again, we don't really cover people news anymore these days, but just some small news because a lot of big kind of news popped up in these past couple of weeks. First, Egoist, the music unit, will stop performing. They've essentially disbanded. They will decide to fully disband in October. Egoist, the sort of collaboration, I guess, between the famous band Supercell as well as Chelly. Chelly being the singer that got auditioned for doing the openings with Supercell on Guilty Crown anime, succeeded, did the openings for Guilty Crown, and I believe they released a couple more albums. She also did the opening for Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress with Egoist as well. Now she's doing more of her solo stuff, and they've decided to disband and all. On top, also, the sort of producer behind Girls on Panzer, principal one of the major actors, Maruyami Shunpei, has passed away. Condolences to his friends and family, of course. So both that Charles Martinet, voice of Mario, has stepped back from the voice, and Akasaka Aka is now taking a hiatus due to health concerns. A lot of big things. So that's sort of the people news. A lot of sort of unfortunate things happening in the past couple of news that I just wanted to hit over. So next, I guess, yeah, I think that's all for the news. So we'll just go on to the shoutouts and callouts now, real quick. Shoutouts and callouts. Everybody here gets one callout and one shoutout each. Callout is something that you want to rage, give 0 out of 5, whatever, rant about, and it can be any one person, place, or thing. And shout out is the exact opposite, something that you want to praise, 5 out of 5, declare mana of the gods, and it can be again any one person, place, or thing. And we start now with Nier. shout out call out, please.
Shout out to Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. That's a good
Okay.
ass game, I think. It's a pretty good game. As for callouts, I'm not too sure. I don't know. Callouts to my recent gacha luck. I've been unlucky,
Yeah.
very unlucky.
Yes.
Sucks.
Sucked.
But I suppose it's my penance for being very lucky. Not too long ago. So
Yeah.
you know,
Alright.
all things balanced, right?
Can't have all the good luck except for when
Yeah.
you're a luck sack. In which case, fuck you. But yeah. Anyways, thank you, Nier. What about you, Dark? Shout out call, please.
I guess shout out to video games. You know, right now they're pretty good. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is fantastic. Armored Core 6 is really good. Specific shout out in that to the dual miniguns. I've been rocking that now, and they're kind of busted, I feel.
But Dark, Armored Core 6 is too hard. Chapter 1 is too hard.
I will say, Armored Core is the final boss of Chapter 1. I can understand why it broke people. I was like getting so annoyed at that boss. It was unreal. But yeah, I think people are coming into this not expecting a difficult game, but like, I mean, much like any other FromSoft game that's come out, it will beat your ass if you fuck up enough. So, you know, but it's really good. Very, very fun. And much like a lot of FromSoft games, you can figure out builds that will make things significantly easier. And yeah,
So what's the what is it? What's the Rivers of Blood meta for Armored Core?
I have no idea right now. I will say though that these chain guns do feel kind of meta. Like, oh, and it also runs really good too. It's the best running FromSoft game they've ever created.
I read somewhere apparently apparently the meta PvP build is just auto turrets on your back and dual Zimmerman shotguns. Apparently that's like the pure cancer build. So
The auto turrets? What do you mean auto? There are auto turrets for your back in this game? What?
apparently.
Damn. All right, I haven't unlocked those yet. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. The shotguns in this game are kind of disgusting. Like, you just boost into people. Yeah, I do wish this game had PvE. That's the one downside to it. I do wish it had like a, or not PvE. I wish it had like a co-op survival thing or something, or boss. That would have been neat.
All right. Call out.
I'm gonna call out this influx of straight art of Venti from Genshin Impact. Don't do that, you know? If you're an artist out there, don't do that. We all know what's up.
Oh my god.
This was for the boys, okay? Like, fucked up.
All right. And I guess toast then. Shout out
My
call,
turn?
please.
All right. My
Yeah.
shout out, Hollow Large Splash Party Day 1. Free for a month, baby. Free till September 27th, so watch that VOD while you still can. Also, Day 2 is in. It's going to be at 6 a.m. CST, but that one's the paid one. But pay for it. If you like this one, watch Day 2. Day 2 is Crony. Day 1 is Suisei, so Suisei and Azuki, so take your pick. You know? or both. Watch both. Yeah. It's free. No reason not to watch it. But pay for Day 2.
Okay. What about call out?
My call to Zen for making it free.
They know why.
Yeah, they know what. I mean, we have what 155K on YouTube right now. Did you not expect that much from HoloLive? Jesus,
Yeah.
have you been living under a rock recently? Whatever, man. Up your game because Blue Journey and Toa's 3D live better not be like this. You want, in fact, day 2 better not be like this.
So wait, why did it crash? So how does that work? So wait, is it
Wait
not
till-
still through
Was it a server
YouTube?
issue?
Like,
I think it was a
No,
server
it-
issue, probably, right?
it's through Zan. They stream
Yeah,
on Zan.
Zan
and-
has its own
oh,
website.
okay.
Yeah,
I thought you just had to like pay for access to the YouTube.
no, that's
Mhm.
different. Oh, hey,
Right.
right now. But yeah, they did it during the Prepara concert and the HoloLive concert. So I hope they got their shit together. Hey, HoloTori. Yeah, it's both a good thing and a bad thing that this is free. So I hope they can recoup their losses for making it free. Yeah, screw you, Zan. How dare you?
All right. I guess I'll go. Shout out to again. I guess the trip I had in Japan. Pretty
Japan.
fun. Yeah. Shout
Yeah.
out to Japan.
Tell us about the food, Spire.
The food was pretty much whatever. The only thing I was like, oh, I like this aspect of Japan with regards to the food was just like convenience stores being more convenient, I guess, with regards to food stuff, instead of just being like, hey, you just want the rotating hot dog or the M&Ms kind of thing. It was a little bit better than that, but not like too much better. And then the ramen. But beyond that, it was kind of just like,
Are you so you're saying it's inferior to superior Korean food?
I don't know whether I would say that, but I wasn't impressed by um that much with like stuff like gyudon or like the standard, eats, takoyaki, okonomiyaki, because I've also had like most of them before in other places as well, and it was mildly amusing to see that usually when you go to like a gyudon place or whatever, one of the more popular kind of dishes tends to be the karabidon. So the implication was not lost upon me,
Yeah.
gotta say.
What's the best
But
restaurant you were at there?
McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. I actually did
Oh,
want to
dude,
go to a lot more like regular
7-Eleven.
things. Yeah. I did go to a lot of like fast food places because obviously that's also what like a lot of regular Japanese people eat too.
Oh,
So
so
it's like,
wait, so
but
you're
a lot
saying
of that isn't
Lawson is
that
better than
special.
McDonald's?
Absolutely. Like the stuff that you would generally eat at Lawson's is generally better than what you would eat at McDonald's. Because McDonald's is just like regular stuff. Plus, like every once in a while, you'll just get either like an event kind of thing. Like when we went, they had all of the fast food, and I mean all of them had this like Hawaiian event, and so
Ugh.
all of the chains had this stupid like loco moco burger or whatever, where it's like
Ugh.
they put egg and like avocado and the inside, and then they
Wait a
had
minute,
like
what kind
a
of
barbecue
event?
sauce on top, like a Hawaiian
Hawaiian.
event or whatever it is, Hawaiian themed event,
Why
and
avocado?
that would be like one of the burgers. I don't know,
Because the
man.
Japanese don't know what Hawaiian food is.
Yeah.
Spire, did you eat shaka shaka chicken at least?
Shaka shaka chicken?
That's
Well,
the one. That's
I don't think so.
that's the chicken tender you put in a bag and shake it up with the seasoning.
Oh, I did not, because it's like the McDonald's we had in like across the different places, didn't have that for some reason. So I don't know.
Did you eat
We
any
literally
anime
used to
themed
have
food?
that with cheese fries at Burger King. Okay,
Yeah,
Did-
on now.
yeah,
Oh.
cheese fries.
Name one anime themed food you ate, Spire.
One anime themed
Did you
food.
go to an anime cafe? Did you go to the Kamen Rider cafe or the Initial D cafe?
We unfortunately really couldn't, because the reason why isn't because we didn't want to or like we didn't care about it.
Did you have to like
We
make appointments for those?
Yeah,
You
you
could
have
just
to.
schedule
So
ahead for a lot of those.
for instance, like the Pokemon themed cafe, right?
Yeah, that
It
one.
was already scheduled for the entirety of August, not just the
Yeah.
part where like we visited, for like until like August 30th and like onward. Like think the closest date we had was like September
8th or something like that. It was ridiculous.
So just come back.
I'm pretty
Just-
sure
just
if
come
you want to
back
go,
tomorrow,
if
yeah.
you want to go to one of those like themed cafes, you essentially
to-
have to plan your entire trip around it,
Yeah.
which
Also,
is
a
like
lot of
not really
appointments.
a good idea, by the way, because from what I
Yeah.
hear, a lot of those themed cafes are not very good.
Yeah, essentially. So 99% of these themed cafes in Japan are they like have a Pokemon or like they have the Kirby kind of thing like imprinted upon whatever. So it's like they're all like all the foods and whatever will be like Kirby shaped or like like Pikachu or Eevee shaped or whatever. But beyond that, it'll be extremely regular or even below average. So you'll have like a Whooper toast or like something with a piece of like grilled sandwich with like Whooper grill mark or whatever it is, and you'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
it's just a grilled sandwich. What do you want me to do with it? And again, a lot of appointments also tend to still require like Japanese phone numbers and stuff like that. So it's also annoying on that side as well. Um, but yeah, I had a decent amount of fun. Unfortunately, didn't get to eat a lot of Pokemon. Oh, and also another problem with anime themed cafes is that Japanese people 99% of the time when you see Japanese people line up for like a food place or an eatery or like a stand, it's a sweet food stand. And what I mean by that is like crepes or like taiyaki or like sweet bread or like I don't know, like cream sandwiches or whatever it is, right? Like something with like super sweet like baker kind of stuff. I've literally seen people make a huge line, like the locals, make a huge line in the morning at like 7 or 8, or not 7, like at 8 to 9 ish a.m. And I've been like, what is that? And every time it was a taiyaki store. And I'm like, why are you eating like? Why are you standing in a line just to eat taiyaki in the morning? Just
Yeah, really.
get an actual breakfast, man. And especially if you go to like any of the malls or anything like that, where it has like Pokemon sweets or whatever it is, like cotton candy or like ice cream, you will see lines that it's like like at least 20 people long. There's a place in Ueno Station that has literally just the fucking like imagine s'mores like graham crackers, but in between instead of like the marshmallows and the chocolate, you just have like green tea filling, like or you know how Oreo filling is, right? Imagine the Oreo filling but green tea, and that's just stuffed between two graham crackers. And like that's what this one store was selling. It was like a sugar butter tree or whatever its store was, and that store 99% of the time would have 20 girls lined up in front of it. I was just like, what is wrong with you people? Stop lining up for this stuff, man. Like, but yeah, unfortunately did not get to visit because of, the million anime, you know, the million people lining up in front, but it is what it is. So anyways, tangent aside, that was my shout out, I think. My call out is to all of, I guess both my return to here and having to deal with everything here, but also all like the obviously like crappy parts of traveling in Japan where it's like um travel being in Comiket for waiting in Comiket lines during the hot muggy summer on top of the asphalt. We had
Did
to
you get
wait.
rained on?
Yes, we absolutely did get rained on both
Nice.
days at the beginning. It wasn't as
I feel
bad
like that
for
happens literally every year. Like literally
yeah,
every
yeah,
year, both days of Comic Cat, it just has fucking like torrential downpour.
I want to go to Winter Comic Con because it's slightly obviously like it's better than sitting on hot asphalt slowly melting inside.
Yeah.
But if you look, the dates for Winter Comic Con are almost consistently December 30th and 31st.
Oh,
And I'm
fuck
sorry,
that.
like I'm an anime nerd, but I'm not going to spend my New Year's
yes,
Eve
Fire?
fucking going to Comic Con.
Name one anime.
What?
Also, like
One
traveling
anime.
during New Year's
Yeah.
times is
Yeah.
like just
And
sucks, right? Like
traveling to plan by yourself to just like Japan just for Comic Con, Winter Comic Con is
Yeah.
just no. I'm not gonna do that. Sorry.
Name some spicy dojins you got there, Fire. Who's your favorite author at
Uh,
Comic Con? Did you get Wada Arco
I
stuff?
freaking so I did not get Wada, bro. Like literally, by the time we even set eyes on Wada Arco's booth, it was already sold out.
Maybe
It
you
was-
should have tried harder. You know how popular Wada Arco is.
Spire did not buy
try that
me
hard for
Miko
Cody
Book
merch?
10.
This
Yeah.
guy hates
I'm gonna
Crony.
take pictures of
Rather,
guy
Spire
hate-
won't give me Miko Book 10, but he sold out every single copy. Kind of fucked up.
So who are the most popular booths there?
So the way the I should okay, so I'm gonna actually say this after the podcast. I want to say this after the podcast because I don't want to make this podcast like another hour long. But I do want to actually move on. I'll like do more. Um, my callouts is again to the warm, muggy heat, and also the fact that Japan doesn't have um bathrooms, benches, like water fountains, trash cans, like frequently. So it's like you have to like strategize. Also, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of credit card readers. Like even like in the cities, if you go into like smaller ramen stores and stuff like that. But especially if you go outside of like standard like bigger malls or stores or like city places, if you go outside, like a lot of places will only like take cash or whatever.
Damn.
A lot of times they'll have like IC card stuff, Suica card stuff. But
Did you get a Suica Spire?
I can't because it's banned.
Oh.
We're not banned, but they stopped giving out physical Suica cards, and you can download a mobile Suica app, but on Android, you cannot use foreign Android phones to download Suica stuff. It will not work, and it will refuse to install it.
Sick.
You must buy an Android phone directly from a Japanese, like inside Japan, and they use that to download. Else, you have to buy an iPhone, a separate iPhone, to get a Suica stuff, and that doesn't necessarily work on all scanners. It might work on a decent amount of stuff. Most train stations will allow you to scan the phone, but there are some IC scanners that people have. Big Rig in chat is like going super early to stand in line to buy one single limited item, one booth, and miss out on every other limited item. That's why you do the lucky star strat. Big Rig, didn't you see that episode where Kurata was like, you go here in that booth, you go there in that booth? That's literally what Ritsu and I had to do. So this is our plan. What our plan was, like, we went to the official booth area, hall area, and we split up because obviously we wanted different stuff, right? And we just like ran out and just like do whatever. And after that, we would come back together and we would go to one of the halls that had like the famous like merch and kits and like the Fubuki set and stuff that we wanted, right? So that then we literally had a plan to split up and be like, okay, I will give you this money. You go to this booth and get it and be in line. If there's like more than 8 people in line, we can't afford the. You have to just get out and tell me. And I'll go to this one and get this set and blah 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 blah, right? And so we literally split up and did that and came back and then ran back to the actual hall that we wanted.
Did you get any Asadagi stuff?
Yeah. For the most part, people that like sold dojins, I didn't really buy too much because dojins, dojins are nice. I bought some of them as like souvenirs. I mainly stuck to buying like smaller merch stuff. Bigger said, yeah. So tourists can get welcome suikas and stuff like that, and like tourist-based Passmo stuff, but they expire in a month, so they're not like permanent suikas. So that's why I didn't go to some merch. The definition of some differs. Again, I spent approximately $240 to $270 USD. That's like on each day, so that's like $500 plus overall, all over the 2 days. So your mileage may vary. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about it. I call out having to strategize on when to go to the bathroom. I once had to. I was in Akiba, and I literally had to be like, okay, I have to go down like 5 floors from this building. I have to go across this street, like make a left, go straight down to the arcade center that I knew had a bathroom, go up to the 5th floor or go up to the 3rd floor where they had a bathroom,
wait for people, and then go into the bathroom, and then come all the way back just to go to a single bathroom. That and obviously again trash cans. Call out to Japan for not being convenient in that aspect. So fuck you guys. But yeah, that was about all I had. Real quick, because is the standard price for a thin book still 500 yen? It depends. Like there are some, like for the most part, with regards to general merch, that's not like a freaking towel or like a tapestry or like a huge figure or something like that. Most dojins will range between anywhere from even 100 yen cheap to like all the way to I think the cap is usually 1,000 yen. I haven't seen any like dojin like thin book like dojinshi that were above 1,000. I think even like the famous authors pretty much just sell it at 1,000. Maybe there might be some people that would sell it at 1,200, but it's usually somewhere between 500 to 1,000. But it can go down to even like 100. I've seen some at 100. But yeah, uh, that was pretty much all I had, and I think with that we are done with the podcast for this time around. Again, sorry for my extremely long tangent on Japanese comic stuff, but we will have one more episode of the summer 2023 reviews in 2 weeks, and then we'll go into the preview, and then it'll be party time from there. So check us out there then, and as always, we do our stream every other Saturday starting from 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at twitch.tv/4PlayerAnimecast. That's with the numeral 4. We talk about the latest and greatest in Japanese animation, anime, manga, light novels, web novels, visual novels, and so much more. So you can here we have our VODs and highlights of the content, as well as on YouTube. We have our clips, so you can check us out there. Check us out here on our social media as well. Twitter handle at 4PlayerAnimecast, as well as on Facebook 4PlayerAnimecast. So you can check us out there on for updates and news. So check us out there, check us out here, and as always,